Our story with Ren begins when he is sent off from the champions team. Captain Arias tells him, "You've come to an end with us, and we no longer need you in the team." Ren replies, "And why? What did I do until I was fired?" One girl replies, "Because you didn't do anything in the first place. Being in the team makes no difference between your absence. I said it before, we don't need a monster tamer in our team. Now, leave immediately." Ren hears their words in the midst of grief, takes off his team suit, and leaves while hearing their sarcastic laughter behind him. After that, Ren decides to take a break to think about what to do with his life, especially after losing the only job that provided him with shelter. While he is sitting, some children who like to play with him come to him and ask, "When will you go on your new task?" The children ask him to make them his usual offer, and Ren agrees without hesitation, and then uses his power on a flying eagle, controlling it and making it say hello to them. Children are impressed and admired. "We'll be monster tamers like you when we grow up." Ren is happy with their words, but one child says, "I'm going to be an adventurer when I grow up." Ren's idea interests Ren, and he decides to head to the guild to register as an adventurer. When he arrives, the employee there tells him, "You must pass a test to get an adventurer's license, which is to kill 10 ogres and collect 10 medicinal herbs." Ren immediately agrees and sets off to take the test. When he reaches the ogres, he discovers that they are weak and easy to kill, so he collects their magic crystals and gets the desired herbs. It seems that things are going well, but suddenly, a girl's screams are heard from the depths of the forest. He throws everything in his hand and rushes towards the source of the sound. There, he finds a huge tiger attacking a girl and almost devouring her. Ren pounces on the tiger with all his might, but is shocked when his knife breaks. The tiger gets angry, leaving the girl heading towards Ren to kill him first. Ren smiles despite the situation, saying to himself, "It's okay. The important thing is that the girl can escape safely." But surprise happens. The girl does not run away. On the contrary, she uses her power, flying through the air and kicking him with an overwhelming force that completely breaks his bones. Ren is stunned. Where did you get all this power from? He looks more closely at it to realize its truth. It belongs to one of the 4 most powerful rare species in the world, the cat spirit. But before he can comprehend, the tiger disappears, and the girl falls to the ground unconscious in front of him. Ren runs to her and asks, "Are you okay? Hungry?" Ren is surprised, but takes out the food he has and gives it to her. The girl eats happily, then introduces herself saying, "My name is Kennedy." Ren asks her, "What brings you here?" "Our species is very small, so we live in the mountains alone, but life there was very boring. So I left for my own adventures, and by chance I met you here. Now it's your turn. Tell me what you were doing." Ren tells her everything he's been through, and how he was kicked off from the champions team. Kennedy gets very angry and curses the team, saying, "These traitors, how dare they do that to you?" Seeing her anger for him, Ren feels happy and thanks her, but she surprises him with an unexpected request. "I want you to tame me." Ren is stunned. "How can I tame you? You're a rare species. I don't think my strength will allow that." But Kennedy smiles and says, "The first time I saw you, I felt chills running through my body. You are so strong and you will be able to tame me." Ren thinks a little, and then says, "If you can tame her, she'll be a great help to me, but I don't want to take advantage of her. I just want her to be by my side." Ren cuts his finger and releases his power to activate the dressage contract, and Kennedy responds, and so they are contracted. She looks at him and says, "Now we're connected forever." Ren is thrilled, shakes hands with her excitedly, and that's where their adventures together begin. Ren returns to the Union and hands the employee the required materials. She congratulates him, saying, "I passed the test. Congratulations, you became an official adventurer." Ren is thrilled and receives the reward. When he tells Kennedy, she is thrilled that he is finally an adventurer. Suddenly, a Union member approaches Kennedy, trying to talk to her, but she ignores him. Ren intervenes to defend her, but the man replies sarcastically, "You have nothing to do with this." Kennedy gets angry, saying, "Don't insult Ren. We're on the same team, by the way." The man laughs sarcastically. "You are with this weak?" Kennedy responds firmly, "He's much stronger than you." The man smiles maliciously and says, "If he is, let him perish me. And if he wins over me, I will shut up. But if he loses, I will have to take you from him by force." Ren gets very angry and thinks, "I don't care if someone insults me, but I won't let anyone insult my friends." He grabs the man's hand and the confrontation begins. In less than a second, Ren defeats him and breaks his arm. And here, A new reality unfolds. After signing Kennedy, Ren has just as much energy as hers. The union employee comes and apologizes for what happened and even tells them that the union is considering revoking that man's license because of his actions. Ren thanks her, then sets off with Kennedy on new missions. But during a mission, they hear screams coming from the forest. They hide to watch what's happening, only to find a huge gang attacking an old merchant and about to kill him. Kennedy gets to know the gang and warns Ren, "They're so dangerous." But Ren smiles confidently and says, "But I want to save him." Kennedy replies, "Okay, let's pounce on them together." Kennedy sets out to protect the old man, while Ren pounces on the gang, strikes hard, and no one can stop him. When Kennedy was watching Ren, she couldn't take her eyes off him, wondering, "Why is my heart beating so fast?" Her face was red, and she seemed to be starting to love him. Meanwhile, Ren was killing the gang members one by one, and then he went towards her, found her face red, and asked her why. The girl was embarrassed and hesitantly replied, "Nothing, this," and then asked him about the secret of his strength and how he managed to defeat all of these. He replied, "I'm a monster tamer, so I had to learn to fight against any dangerous monsters that might come my way." Kennedy nodded. "Well, I get it." Then, they asked the old man why he was traveling alone, even though the place was full of thieves, and he told them that he had hired 3 men to protect him. But they fled as soon as the gang attacked them. Ren tried to console him, saying, "It's okay, it happened." But the old man warned them, "You have to get out of here as soon as possible. This gang is big, and if you know what you have done, they will not leave you alive." Ren replied confidently, "So we have to eliminate them before they even think about going after us." Kennedy looked at Ren in amazement and said, "But there are over 100 people. How are we going to defeat them alone?" Ren smiled. "Don't worry, I have a plan." Indeed, Ren and Kennedy went to the gang's hideout and waited there. Ren had used a certain animal to be able to find out the location of the enemies. Then he turned to Kennedy and told her, "Go back to the city and tell the knights to come and collect the bodies." Kennedy was surprised by his overconfidence and asked, "But watch out, don't do anything that might get you hurt." And he replied with a reassuring smile, "Don't worry, they won't be able to hurt me." Next, take out a trained insect, which can immobilize the person it stings for 12 hours. The insect summoned its peers, while it left as a club for the city to carry out their plan. Elsewhere, it was 3 gang members who fled, including 2 from the hero squad that had previously expelled Ren. One of the girls in the band got angry at her 3rd colleague and asked him sharply, "How did you not comb the area well? How do you think a tamer of only 1 squirrel can survive in a forest like this? You had to tame at least 10. The young man replied in astonishment, "How can I tame 10 monsters? That's impossible." The girl was shocked and said, "You're lying," but suddenly remembered how Ren was taming 20 animals at once and easily controlling them, and she fell silent. Then she threatened her colleague, saying, "You are in charge of this task, and if you fail, I will get rid of you myself." At this time, Ren was not taming just 1 monster, but controlling 100 monsters at once. He ordered them to attack the gang, and all their members fell to the ground paralyzed and unable to move. Kennedy arrived with a group of men who began to gather the gang members to put them in jail. But suddenly, everyone heard the sound of a huge monster approaching, breaking everything in its way, and then began to attack them fiercely. Ren, however, did not back down, but confronted him with a heavy blow that struck him. As a club, she fought a monster and managed to eliminate him. However, the numbers began to grow, and the situation seemed to be trapped. Ren shouted at everyone, "Get out of the cave immediately! We will eliminate the monsters ourselves." People hesitated at first, but eventually agreed and left the cave. Ren and Nady started fighting bravely, striking left and right until they were able to eliminate all the monsters. People outside were worried, fearing that something had happened to them, but soon they came out of the cave unscathed, and everyone rejoiced in their victory. Ren stood contemplating the scene and said to himself, "Just 2 days ago, I was jobless and outcast, and no one cared about me. Now everyone is rallying around me, celebrating my achievement. All thanks to you as a club, thank you for everything." Kennedy was very happy with his words, and said to him with a smile, "You're welcome." So, the day ended, and they returned to the city where Ren received his reward and rented a place to sleep. When they arrived at the hostel, the hotelier told them that there was only 1 room available. Kennedy had to agree to take it, while Ren was embarrassed to share the room with her, so he packed up his things while they went out to sleep outside. But suddenly, Kennedy grabbed his hand and asked, "Where are you going?" "Stay here." Ren looked at her hesitantly and said, "It's not right to sleep in the same room. You're a girl, I'm a guy, and you've only known me for 1 day. You can't trust me so quickly." Kennedy smiled and said, I trust you, because I felt like you were a good person, like me. I'm not like others trying to exploit me. Then you are my master, and I cannot let you sleep outside. Her words persuaded him to stay, but she asked him to turn his face when she changed her clothes, and he replied with a laugh, I'll close my eyes, don't worry. Then, Ren lay down to sleep, while she stayed awake as a club, staring at him in great happiness, recalling her journey, the suffering of people exploiting her skills, and the fear she felt all her life. But now, thanks to Ren, she feels safe for the first time. The next morning, the two continued their adventures, until the guild girl told them about a difficult task. There is a terrifying monster at the big bridge that defeats everyone who tries to cross it, and whoever manages to eliminate it will receive a huge reward. As soon as Ren heard of the reward, he immediately agreed, and set off with Kanade to the bridge in search of the monster. As soon as she got there, she was shocked when she saw a huge dragon in front of her. Suddenly, the dragon fell to the ground and turned into a girl in front of them, who smiled. It's good that someone came to humanize my loneliness. Let me introduce myself, Tanya, as one of the strong, dragon-like species. Ren was deeply shocked and asked, Are you the one attacking people here? Tanya smiled and said, Yes. Now get ready too, it's your turn. She attacked Ren's very quickly, but he managed to repel the attack, so she looked at him in amazement and said, You amazed me. This blow alone brought down half of those who were here before you, and then stepped back and blew fire out of her mouth. This time Kanade's tail was consumed by flames, angering her, and she rushed to attack with all her might. Ren took advantage of the opportunity and drove towards Tanya to get ready for her, but she noticed at the last minute, grabbed them together and circled them in the air, then threw them away. After that, she prepared to launch a fatal blow at them while they were still in the sky. But Ren laughed and told Kanade, Just give me 3 minutes and I'll take care of it. In those moments, Rin began taming one of the birds that were flying in the sky. The 3 minutes passed, and he returned to fighting, and Tanya looked at him and said, Finally you will face me? Ren replied with a smile, Not me, it's those. Suddenly swarms of birds swooped down from everywhere and attacked Tanya. She got angry and said sarcastically, Do you think a dragon like me would be defeated in such a naive way? Ren laughed and said, It's a Beto. Its pinch paralyzes the whole body and prevents its owner from moving for hours. You won't even be able to move a finger now. Tanya admitted her defeat and surrendered, and Ren was thrilled. He took her to the guild and told them that he had defeated the monster that was intercepting people on the bridge. The union employee rejoiced and said, I will give you the reward, but only after making sure that your words are true. Then she looked at Tanya and asked, And who is this girl next to you? Tanya almost identified herself, but Ren was quick to muffle her mouth, saying, She's just my follower, nothing more. When they went out, Ren explained to her, If people knew you were the monster, they wouldn't leave you alone. My mission is over here, and I don't want anything from you. If you continue on your way, you will reach another city. Live in peace, but don't repeat what you did here again. Tanya looked at him in shock and said, You're so kind. But I decided to stay with you. Or do you not want me? Ren were surprised by her words, while Kanade was jealous, but eventually agreed to bring her into his team, concluding a contract similar to that of Kanade. Next, Tanya approached Ren and said gently, Take good care of me, sir. Meanwhile, the hero's squad was in big trouble, as they couldn't cross the Forest of Illusion for a whole week. One girl said, If Ren were with us, he would use his animals and cross us in seconds. Arius laughed maliciously and said, What's the problem? Let's give it back to us. He has no dignity, and will be content to return in seconds. Meanwhile, Rain and his companions in the forest were on a mission to eliminate the slime creatures that were spoiling the fields. The monsters were weak, and anyone could defeat them, but their problem lay in their sheer numbers. During their search, Ren couldn't find where the slimes were gathering. So he told Kanade and Tanya, Watch my body for a moment and I'll know where they are. They didn't understand what he meant, but he closed his eyes and passed consciousness to one of the birds in the sky, and then told them, Watch out for my body. I'll check where they gather and come back. The two girls were surprised by what he did, but he already managed to find the place where the monsters gathered. Upon arrival, Tanya asked Ren to use the magic of fire against them. He replied, But I'm weak at magic, and my strength is barely at the first level. Tanya smiled and said, Just try, don't bother. Ren agreed, and suddenly, he launched a devastating gunshot blow that wiped out all the monsters at once. Tanya looked at him in amazement and said, As a dragon-like, I am ranked as the second most powerful magical energy among rare spirits. Since you made a deal with me, you have the same magical energy as I do. Tanya began to teach him magic, but she was strict and nervous during his training. However, Ren managed to master it. After completing the mission, They returned to the guild, and Rain handed over the monster's gems, and he received his reward. Then they went out for a walk in the city. In the evening, Ren invited the two girls to dinner to celebrate Tanya joining their team, and the trio were delighted. But suddenly, Kanade asked him, "What's the secret of your power in taming monsters? And where did you come from?" Ren was silent for a moment, and then finally decided to tell them his story, saying, "I lived in a village full of talented monster tamers. My parents were among them, and one day, I left for the forest to train and increase my strength. Time passed without me feeling, and when I came back at night, I found my village destroyed and all its inhabitants had been killed." Pause, then continue in a low voice. "I couldn't bear the shock, so I stayed standing there until a group of soldiers came and took me with them. I grew up in a family and had to work every day to earn a living, until one day I met the hero Arius and his friends, and they offered me to join them. I was very happy. I finally felt that someone needed me, but Arius saw me as nothing but a tool. He used me to carry luggage, to monitor the place, and he continued to exploit me again and again. I was doing all this for nothing until the day he decided to kick me off from the team. The rest you know well." Kanade was deeply moved by his words and told him, "Now I understand why you are throwing yourself in danger alone, and why you are leaving us behind." Tanya felt sad for him and said, "You're too kind, but that's a beautiful quality in you." Ren felt very moved, and tears almost gathered in his eyes. But Kanade and Tanya looked at him confidently and said, "Don't care about them. If we ever see them, we will never forgive them." And so the day ended. The next day, the trio set off on a new mission to face the ogres. As a club, and Tanya started competing for who would be able to defeat the most of them. Ren warned Tanya, "Wait and don't go any further. It could be dangerous for you." But she did not listen to him and replied confidently, "No one will be able to me." She rushed into the fight against the ogres, not caring about the danger. But suddenly, a huge ghoul grabbed her hand and pulled her down to the ground. Tanya fired a shot from her hands and killed him in moments, but she didn't notice another ogre who was attacking her from behind, and almost killed her had Ren not intervened at the last minute, receiving the blow in her place, using his arm to protect her. Tanya was deeply moved and felt guilty that she did not listen to his warning, which led to his injury. They went back to the guild and handed over the stones, and things were going well. But Tanya couldn't forget what had happened, so she went to the river feeling sad and confused. She didn't know how to face Ren after she caused his injury. A little girl saw her and asked her, "Why do you look sad?" Tanya replied, "I made a huge mistake." The child smiled and said, "My mother always tells me that if I make a mistake, I have to apologize." Tanya was moved by her words, and when Ren came to see her, she looked at him and said, "I'm sorry I didn't listen to you." Ren smiled and said, "If that's what makes you sad, it's okay. The important thing is that you're okay and sound. But be careful next time. I may not be there to protect you." Tanya was thrilled by his words, and they went home to rest. As always, there was only one room to sleep, which made Tanya feel closer to Ren. During the night, she began to realize that she had come to admire him, and perhaps indeed loved him. The next morning, while on their way to their new mission, they encountered something completely unexpected. The hero squad was standing in front of them. Ren was so shocked that he couldn't move. As for Tanya and Kanade, they didn't know who they were, and didn't understand what was happening. "Let's get out of here now," Rain muttered. But no sooner had he moved than he heard Arius's voice calling him. "Don't treat me like that, my friend. We've been comrades in the past, haven't we? Or are you angry just because we called you worthless?" Tanya and Kanade realized they were in front of the champion squad, and they were very angry. Arius noticed their presence and was stunned to see that two of the world's most powerful factions were walking with and supporting Ren. But Ren wasn't interested and asked him to cut it short, saying, "Say what you have. I don't have time to waste with you." Arius smiled and said, "You know the Forest of Illusion, don't you?" Ren replied apprehensively, "What do you mean?" Arius continued, "We tried to cross it for a week, but we didn't succeed. You know, traveling with luggage is very daunting, which is why we want you with us to use your animals and guide us through the road, as well as to carry our luggage." Ren's face blushed angrily, and he said sarcastically, "Do you expect me to agree to this ridiculous request? Let's go, girls. We don't have time to waste with them." But one of the girls from the hero squad stopped him and said, "The forest hides inside it the shield of truth. a magic tool that will help the hero defeat the Demon King. Your refusal to do so means that you will allow many innocent people to die. Ren looked at her sharply and replied, "You are really malicious. You know I won't let anyone get hurt." At that moment, they grabbed his injured arm so hard, which made him in great pain. Ren was angry but had to agree, saying, "Okay, I'll help you." But Tanya and Kanade did not allow it. Tanya angrily told them, "You kicked him out earlier, and now you're asking him to help you? It will only happen if you kneel in front of him and apologize." Arius was very angry and shouted, "Do you think that I, as a hero, would apologize to a coward like him? That's impossible." And then looked at Ren and said sarcastically, "Why don't you order these animals to retreat? It's true that they're spirits of the stronger factions, but after all, they're just monsters, right?" Ren couldn't hold back his anger, so he punched Arius in the face, saying, "These are my friends, and if you dare to insult either of them again, you'll see what you don't like." Arius looked at him angrily and said, "How dare a mere tamer of monsters beat me? Well, I challenge you in battle. My team is against yours, and whoever loses is subject to the winner." Ren smiled confidently and said, "Okay, the battle has begun. As a club, I faced the sword-wielding fighter. Tanya took over the fight against the two girls from the team, and Ren was his opponent, Arius himself. The confrontation is caught." The fencer was quite self-confident and told Lucanati, "I've always wanted to fight a member of the stronger factions." But Kanade angrily said, "I'll make you apologize to Ren for offending him." She rushed hard at him, and he found himself receiving blows from every side without being able to respond. He pooled his energy in his sword to attack her, but she easily repelled the blow. She stepped back a little and then mocked him, saying, "All this screaming about legendary techniques, that's all you got?" The swordsman felt angry and said, "I will fight you with all my might." His energy began to gather around his body, and she looked at him as a club and said, "Finally." She started taking it seriously. "Well, I'll only use half my strength." In less than a second, she disappeared in front of him, then suddenly appeared behind him, kicked him and broke one of his bones, and he fell to the ground. Tanya began her battle against the two girls, provoking them, saying, "Come on, show me what you have." They got angry and rushed towards her with all their might, but Tanya just snapped her fingers to neutralize their spells. The girls were surprised again, while Tanya was laughing sarcastically and saying, "Is this the most you have? My ability is called physical cancellation, and it enables me to erase any spell against me, no matter how strong it is," Tanya said. "So are you done?" The girls became more angry, gathering all their strength and attacking them, but to no avail. At that point, they completely lost the motivation to fight. Tanya continued, "Do you think you're going to smell rain and I'll let you do it? No, no way. Now I'm going to show you the real magic." The sky began to turn red, and meteorites appeared on the horizon. The girls were terrified by what they saw, and realized that this might be their end. They couldn't stand the scene and fainted, but Tanya didn't intend to kill them, because she didn't want Ren to be sad. Thus, she managed to defeat the two girls, leaving only Ren and Arius. "You see, who will win?" Arius quipped. "It was foolish to face a hero like me. Get ready for your death." But before he could finish, Ren rushed in and attacked him suddenly, interrupting his speech. Arius became angry and began to attack with his sword, which he was very skilled at using, hitting Ren in several places on his body. However, Ren struck a powerful punch that made him retreat, and, before Arius could catch his breath, he found another punch shattering the rock behind him. He was shocked and said, "How did you become so strong?" Ren replied with a wry smile, "This is the power of the tamer of the monsters I mocked. By the way, I memorize your every move." He then kicked him hard, knocking him away. Arius was very angry and launched a lightning spell at Ren, but he countered it using his magic enhanced by another energy. Arius said confidently, "This spell of yours will not withstand the barrage of spells that I will now launch," and then began to launch more magic attacks. Ren tried to avoid attacks, and it seemed that the situation had become difficult for him, or so he wanted to show it. As Arius attacked, he suddenly found himself falling to the ground, his whole body drugged. Ren laughed. "Have you forgotten that I'm good at taming insects?" It turns out that Ren has been watching an insect from the beginning of the fight, and allowed Arius to hit him so that he could direct the insect to bite him. Arius fell to the ground and said in surrender, "Forgive me, I'm sorry, I will not repeat this mistake." But do you think Ren will forgive him after he insulted his friends? Definitely not. Ren hit him with a powerful punch that smashed his face and shattered the ground beneath him. Tanya and Kanade arrived at his place, and they were very happy with their victory. After the defeat of the champions team, Tanya forced the girls to apologize to Ren. Arius then began to tell them about the Shield of Truth, which is located in the Forest of Illusion under the protection of a monster. Ren said confidently, "Don't worry, I'll bring it myself." Rain and his friends set out into the forest in search of the gear. Tanya came up with the idea of burning the forest to the ground to make the search easier, but Rin stopped her saying, "Slow down, Tanya." They continued their progress inside the forest, and Ren decided to merge himself with another bird to figure out the way to the gear. After the merger was successful, he was able to locate and then return to continue the journey with his friends. But they kept walking for a long time in vain. Kennedy said, "Will we keep walking forever? I'm tired." But before she could continue, she noticed that the stone they had placed as a sign of return had reappeared in front of them, which meant they had returned to their starting point. Tanya marveled, "I'm sure we were going in the right direction. Something abnormal is happening here." Using her ability to detect mana, she discovered that a tree was sending an imaginary magic that would make them walk in a circle. Tanya said, "This tree is the reason. If we want to progress, we have to break it first." She got excited. "Leave this task to me," and then stepped back in preparation for a big blow, but suddenly she heard a voice saying, "Leave the place." She froze like a club in place, then hid behind Ren's, saying fearfully, "What's that voice?" Before she could finish speaking, a fairy appeared from inside the tree. Everyone stood in a daze, disbelieving what they were seeing. Ren said cheerfully, "Hello," but the fairy looked at them angrily and said, "Leave the place immediately." Ren told her, "We're looking for the Shield of Truth." She replied sharply, "I told you, leave the place." Ren tried to speak again, but she interrupted saying, "Are you leaving or?" Suddenly everyone ran towards the forest again. They couldn't believe there was a fairy guarding the gear. Tanya told Ren, "She deceived us the first time, but if we come back now we can beat her. Don't bother with her spells. I'll protect you." "But do you think Ren is going to hit a girl?" "I'll talk to her again first," Ren said. The girl shouted, "Are you stupid? She was going to kill us." Ren smiled and said, "I'll try to get along with her." Everyone was convinced and went back to talking to her. "I'm sorry," Ren said, "but I want something from you." The fairy said angrily, "It looks like you want to die here." Ren said quietly, "I just want to talk to you, nothing more." But the fairy attacked him directly, and Ren did not move from his place, but let her arrows hit him. I asked him in amazement, "Why didn't you run away?" He replied, "I came to talk." That's it. The fairy got angry again and attacked him with stronger spells, and was about to kill him. But Tanya and Kunadi rushed to protect him from the arrows. When the fairy saw that they were protecting him, she cancelled her spells and asked, "Why are you defending him?" Kunadi replied, "I know fairies hate humans, but believe me, he's different from them. He's good." Tanya said to her, "And I testify to you that." She was convinced by their words and went to Ren to wake him up, and then told him, "My name is Sura. Nice to know you." He replied, "My name is Ren, and I am honored." They finally sat down together and started telling her why they came to this place. Sora realized it and told them, "You're looking for the Shield of Truth, aren't you? That gear is in our village, we fairies, and it's protected by a barrier I made myself, and I won't let you in, but I can go and bring the gear for you." Everyone rejoiced and said to her, "We agree." Sora went to get the shield, came back to them to deliver it to them, and then said, "You got the shield. Come on now, leave from here." Ren replied, "Okay," and then took the girls with him and started leaving. But Sora wanted to tell them something, but she stopped herself. However, Ren felt she wanted to say something. He returned to her and asked her, "What's the matter? Tell me." She was about to tell him what hurt her, but backed down when she remembered that it could lead to their death. As she was about to deny it, Ren interrupted, saying, "It's okay. I'll help you even if you get hurt or lose my life. She helped me and brought me the gear I was looking for, so let me give you back." Sora was very moved by his words and began to tell him about her suffering. "I have a twin sister named Rona. She is different from me, but she is the closest person to me. We were always here, protecting our village together with the magic barrier we created. But one day, a monster from the army of the Demon King appeared and attacked us. We tried to fight him, but he was very strong and managed to beat us. Rona sacrificed herself for me and escaped while she was captured. Now she's locked up, and I can't do anything to save her. I went to the village chief to ask for help, but he refused, preferring the safety of all the fairies to the rescue of my sister. I know his decision was right, but I can't leave her there without her help." Ren listened to her story and was very moved by it, then told her, "Don't worry, I'll bring your sister back to you soon. That's a promise from me." Sura was deeply moved and tears streamed from her eyes as she hugged him. After that, the four devised a plan to save Rona from the monster unharmed. Sura remained in the forest to protect her village, while Rin and his companions vowed to return her sister safely. Ren arrived at the place of the monster, and he looked very strong. He found Rona hanging on a tree, chained, unable to move. Ren took advantage of the monster's preoccupation, attacking it with all his might, but the magical attacks did not affect him. Kennedy jumped and hit him with her foot. Then Rin joined her and dealt him a blow with his fist, but the monster was not affected. The monster realizes they were here to save Rona, so he dealt a heavy blow to kill her, but Tanya intervened at the last minute, freed her, and took her away. The monster became very angry and began to destroy everything around it, driving Rin and Kennedy away from him. Ren quickly thought of using a spell to distract the monster, summoning a group of insects to get his attention. Then he turned to Kennedy and told her, "I want you to deal him one blow after I cast this spell." Kennedy objected, saying, "One blow won't be enough. He has already received 10 blows and hasn't fallen." Ren confidently replied, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." He cast a strengthening spell on Kennedy, and her body glowed with powerful energy. Kennedy then set off and hit the monster with her fist, completely destroying it and disappearing. Moments later, Tanya returned carrying Rona. Ren asked her what she thought of the spell, and she replied, "It's a strengthening spell I learned in my village." Kennedy was very happy, and everyone was overwhelmed with a sense of happiness. Rona finally opened her eyes and rushed to her sister, who hugged her crying with joy. Afterwards, Sora approached Ren and said, "I don't know how to thank you for what you've done. You're really a person like no other." Rona also thanked him, saying, "I don't know how I'm going to give you back this favor." Sora felt ashamed, and then they all started joking and laughing. In the end, Sora and Rona decided to leave the village, because they could not forgive those who abandoned them. The problem is that they never knew the way out, and they had never left the village before. Kennedy suggested that they join their team, and the girls liked the idea, and Ren agreed too. Rona asked Rennes to make a contract with them, and he agreed. But he didn't know how to do it with fairies, as he had never done it before. Tanya encouraged him, saying, "Try. You won't lose anything." Ren told her, "Okay," and then focused his energy fully, and suddenly he came up with a solution and managed to make a contract with them. Thus, Sora and Rona joined the team, and everyone was happy. Ren then took the gear and went to the champions team to hand it over to them. Arius was shocked, not believing that Ren had been able to bring the gear in just 2 days. He said to him, "It's impossible. The gear can't be real. It must be fake." But one of the girls on the team cast a spell to check and discovered that it was really the real gear. Arius was then very angry, while Ren took his reward for the task and told them goodbye. But as he left, a team member stopped him and asked, "How about joining our team again?" Rennes was silent for a moment, but Arius burst out in anger and said, "How dare you invite him to join us?" The young man replied, "Have you seen how strong he is? He got the gear that the 4 of us couldn't find in a whole week." The rest of the team agreed to the idea, and the young man approached Ren again and asked him, "So, what do you think?" Ren didn't immediately respond, but he looked at the girls, found them reaching out to him and telling him, "Let's go." Ren regained consciousness, then said to them with a wry smile, "Back to you? This is only in your dreams." The young man tried to convince him, "If you stay with us, you will gain fame and money that no one can reach." But Ren replied firmly, "I don't need anything from you. I already have everything I need." The champions team were furious at his refusal, but Arius was the furious, still remembering Ren's blow. He murmured angrily, "I will never forgive him. I have to remove it from the face of the earth." The day ended on this scene, and the next day, Rin was sitting with his friends, talking about the Demon King and how he could be defeated. A long time ago, there was a very powerful Demon King, and no humans could defeat him, Ren said. But one human being received great power that enabled him to seal and defeat Satan. That man became known as the hero, and one of his grandsons is Arius, and his power should increase over time to defeat the new Demon King. But one of the girls asked him, "Why are we waiting for someone like Arius to defeat him? Why don't we do it?" Ren replied, "Because your energy is normal and very limited, while Arius's energy will increase over time, making him able to kill him." But Sora intervened, saying, "But the more you make a deal with us, the stronger you too, which means you may reach the strength needed to defeat him." Ren was shocked by her words and said, "That's right." Kennedy rejoiced and said excitedly, "Then you must make a deal with everyone you meet, and then become the hero who defeats the Demon King." But Ren laughed, "It's not that easy. Let's forget about this now and enjoy our adventures, and when the time comes, we'll see what we can do." Everyone agreed with him, and they were very happy. When they returned to the city, they fell asleep and woke up the next day to eat with Sora and Rona. who were very happy with the food. Then Ren said, I made a lot of money from Arius and his followers, and it's time to spend it. Tanya suggested to him, why don't you buy a powerful weapon that will help you face your enemies? Ren liked the idea and agreed. So he took the girls with him and went to the blacksmith to make him a weapon. But along the way, Sora and Rona seemed worried about humans, but gradually began to adapt. When they arrived at the blacksmith's shop, they noticed that he was sad because of his customers. Ren started looking for a suitable weapon, but felt something was abnormal. One of the customers entered the blacksmith and asked him for a strong sword, and the blacksmith gave him a regular sword, and then the customer left. Ren was angry and went to mourning, saying, this sword is not good, you have better, so why did you give him this sword? The blacksmith was surprised by Ren's intuition, and was glad that someone finally noticed that the swords were not original. He began to tell them why, and said, as a blacksmith, I consider the swords I make as my children, so I want to give them to those who really deserve them. Ren said to him, then why don't you give me one of those powerful weapons that I hidden? Looks amazing. Al-Haddad replied sadly, at first, I would give my weapons to anyone who asked for them, but I found them throwing them in the streets and coming back to ask for others, without any appreciation of their true value. Ren was moved by his words and said, so, can you make me a powerful weapon? Al-Haddad agreed but said, there is only one problem. Ren asked him, what is it? Al-Haddad replied, I don't have the material to make weapons. Ren said, and where can we find them? I have a mine that I inherited from my family, but I can't find anything in it anymore, and I suspect someone is stealing it, Al-Haddad said. Ren said, so what's the solution? The blacksmith gave them a task to go to the mine and recover the material, and Ren enthusiastically agreed, and the blacksmith was very happy. They went to the union and told the employee that they would carry out the task for the sake of Al-Haddad, and she gave them approval. When they arrived at the mine, Rain noticed a strange bird flying over them. As they spoke, two people came out from inside the mine and attacked them, but Kanedi and Tanya confronted them until they lost consciousness. Then, Sora and Rona used their magical power to figure out how many people were left inside the mine, only to discover that there were 3 others, including a tamer of monsters. Then, Ren said, we've defeated 2, and there's still 3 inside, including someone who has the ability to tame monsters. Prepare to attack, because they will be strong. They entered the mine, and the thieves began to attack them hard. But Sora and Rona used their magical power to repel the blows. Everyone attacked again, but Tani and Kanedi managed to eliminate them. Ren then reached their leader and told him, surrender yourself calmly and don't cause any more trouble. The boy refused to give up and attacked Ren, but Ren struck him a heavy blow to the stomach. The boy flared up in anger and said angrily, I will never forgive that old man for what he did to me. Suddenly, he did his power, and at that moment, he heard the sound of a monster approaching them. Everyone was shocked, and they couldn't believe that this boy had tamed that monster in the first place. Ren asked him, how did you manage to tame him? Taming monsters is impossible for humans. The boy replied confidently, I found him when he was still young, so he had no hostility towards me. Now get ready because you're going to die. The monster began to attack, and Ren was trying to dodge his quick strikes, but the mine was slowly collapsing due to the intensity of the attacks. Ren looked at Kennedy and said, get everybody out of here! Kennedy understood it, and took everyone out of the mine, leaving Ren alone with the monster. Rennis was trying to avoid the hits, but the situation was getting worse. At that moment, Kennedy agreed with Tanya to protect the rescued people, and then decided to return to help Ren. Indeed, she reached him at the last minute and rescued him from the monster. Ren told her, listen, I want you to do exactly what I tell you. She replied, well, what's the plan? He told her, the quickest way to defeat the beast now is to defeat its tamer first. Therefore, I will eliminate the beast and you will make it cancel its orders. Kennedy agreed, and the two began attacking together. Ren became able to predict the monster's movements, so he began to skillfully dodge his attacks. At the same time, Kennedy grabbed the boy and pinned him in place. Ren told him, give up, you can't win. But the boy shouted angrily, on my dead body, and then ordered the beast to attack Rain more fiercely. Ren was in a difficult position, and the mine was collapsing more and more. While dodging the blows, he got an idea. Can I tame this monster myself? He knew it was impossible, but he had no other choice. He decided to risk everything for that step. Ren stood still, and the monster was about to kill him. Kennedy was terrified, but suddenly stopped the monster moving. Yes, Ren was able to tame him. The boy was shocked by what had happened, and said in amazement, how did you do that? I am the most powerful monster tamer on Earth. No one but me can tame this monster. But not only did he tame him, but Ren also wiped out his grip on the monster completely. The boy could not comprehend what was happening, so he began to give successive orders to the monster, but the latter did not respond. Instead, the monster attacked its owner and tried to kill him. At the last minute, Ren intervened and struck a fatal blow to the monster, ending it completely. Then he looked at the boy and said, "You caused the monster to be agitated because of your many orders, and that would have killed you." Then he added, "Now come with me quietly and tell me everything." They took him with them, and he began to tell them why he had done all this. It turned out that Hadad Antar had previously given him and his followers ordinary weapons, but they did not help him in any of his tasks. Realizing that he had been deceived, he decided not to let Antar work as a blacksmith again, and began stealing his mine in retaliation. Ren understood the situation, then went to Antar and told him everything. Antar felt remorse and said, "I made a mistake in what I did to him." Then he decided to make real weapons for everyone, and the first to get them was Ren. Ren told him the specifications he wanted, and things finally got back to normal. But on the other hand, the hero Arius was organizing a competition to select new members for his team. Many flocked to apply, but he didn't accept anyone, comparing them all to Ren, and anyone weaker than him immediately rejected him. The girl who works with him tried to convince him not to compare, but he got angry with her, causing her to step back with fear and say, "I'm sorry, do what you think is right." When I left, Arius took a cursed ring out of his desk drawer and said in a low voice, "I will not leave you. I will kill you soon." Ren meant that. Meanwhile, Ren had returned to the Union to ask about the fate of the people arrested. The clerk told him all the details, and he shook his head and said, "Okay," but obviously, he was sad, because he didn't want them to be imprisoned. Sora and Rona noticed this, so they tried to entertain him and took him for a walk. Everyone felt happy and fun, and Ren bought them some food, which they were very happy with. He then asked them what kind of power he gained from hiring them, but he replied that he did not know yet. The girls felt frustrated, but he gently wiped their heads, so they rejoiced again and happily resumed their outing. But as they were returning home, the son of the governor of the region suddenly appeared. He saw Sora and Rona and liked how they looked, so he asked for their names. After they answered, he boldly told them, "I want you to be my servants." Everyone was shocked, and no one understood what was going on. Ren came forward and asked him angrily, "And who are you, and what do you want from them?" The boy replied arrogantly, "I am the son of the ruler of this state, and what I want, I get by force." Anger flared in Ren's eyes, and he said to him firmly, "You won't take one of them." The boy became very angry and ordered his guards to attack Ren and take the girls by force. But Ren didn't give them any chance. He started smashing them one by one, setting an example for everyone. The governor's son got very angry and said to Ren, "If you don't hand me the girls, I'll kill all the people who are here." Ren looked at him in shock and said, "What does it have to do with it? Are you out of your mind? How will you kill your flock?" The arrogant boy laughed. "I'm free, I do what I want. If the girls don't bring me now, I'll kill them all." Ren was confused and did not know how to save these innocents. Sora and Rona suggested helping him, but he refused, fearing people would discover their truth as fairies. Ren was standing hesitantly, but suddenly, a new spell appeared in his mind due to his contract with Sora and Rona. Ren controlled the spell, creating a huge number of fireballs and firing them at all the soldiers, saving people in just a few seconds. The governor's son was shocked and could not believe what was happening in front of him. Then Rin lifted him by the neck and said sharply, "If I see you again, this will be your end." Terrified, the boy gathered his soldiers and fled the entire place. Then Sora and Rona warmly thanked Ren, and they were very happy. The townspeople approached and thanked him as well, making him feel proud. But suddenly, an old woman walked up to him and whispered, "You must flee the city immediately." Ren was surprised, but soon realized why. The old woman told him that the ruler is completely corrupt, covering up his son's crimes. The boy would kidnap any girl he liked, take her to the palace to assault her, then torture her and make her his servant. If anyone tried to file a complaint against him, the knights would cancel it, so he could continue to do whatever he wanted with impunity. The situation in the city was completely rotten. Ren returned to Tanya and Kanedi and told them everything. Anger flared in Tanya's heart and she said, "We must burn the palace with all in it." But Ren stopped her, saying, "We have to think rationally first. We can't destroy the city, and I can't do anything that puts you in danger or takes you away from me." Ren wanted to save all the townspeople, but he was also worried about the girls and wanted to protect them. He thought of escaping them from the city, but they rejected the idea. Sora said to him, "Don't be afraid for us. Let us help you. We know you want to protect us, but we love the people of this city. and we want to save them too. Ren was moved by their words, and was finally convinced. On the other hand, the prince in his palace was very angry at what Ren had done. He summoned the cavalry commander, ordered him to capture Ren immediately, and then offered him a huge bribe to facilitate the task. After that, his office bell rang, and one of the enslaved girls entered. He started beating her violently, while she could do nothing but cry. He enjoyed humiliating her. The next day, Ren went to the cavalry to file a complaint against the governor's son. But the girl who worked there was shocked by his words, and did not write anything. Before Ren could say more, a group of riders appeared behind him, and one said, "We heard everything. It was just a simple fight. Nothing more." Ren became angry and realized that everyone was complicit in this corrupt circle. But in the corner of the place, there was a girl eavesdropping on the conversation, and she seemed to be hiding something. When they left the guild, the girl went out and followed them, and then apologized for the actions of the cavalry. She told them, "I know that the ruler is corrupt, and most of the knights work for him because of money. Everyone is traitors, except for me and a few loyal individuals. I want to restore the dignity of the city and the union, and I need your help to make that happen." Ren was suspicious of her intentions, but Kennedy told him, "I feel like she's a good girl." The girl introduced herself saying, "My name is Stella." Ren reached out to her and said, "Okay, let's start working together." Tears streamed from Stella's eyes from joy. Everyone began to draw up a plan to restore the cavalry guild and capture all the traitors. They spread a rumor among the people that there is evidence hidden in one of the old warehouses that can prove the betrayal of the ruler. When the knights heard this, they decided to head to the warehouse at night to get rid of any evidence against him, which was exactly what Ren wanted. Once inside the warehouse, Ren began to eliminate them one by one. Some tried to flee through the back door, but it was locked with ice to prevent them from escaping. Ren used the glove Antar had made for him and began to eliminate the cavalry, but their commander was very strong and was able to repel his attacks easily. Stella asked Ren to let her fight him, and he agreed. She walked up to him and said, "Give up. You have no escape now." The commander got angry and shouted, "In your dreams!" and then punched her to the ground. Ren worried about her, but she got up again, and the anger was evident in her eyes. She attacked him with full force and managed to defeat him. Thus, Ren and his friends triumphed, and the cavalry guild was restored. All that was left with them was the governor and his son. When the prince learned what had happened, and that Stella had defeated the cavalry commander, he realized that he had lost all his support. He burst out in anger and began beating one of the enslaved girls, as if it were just something to empty his anger into. But suddenly, a mysterious person wearing a black cloak appeared, sitting in the window, and said to him in a quiet voice, "You know who will completely ruin your life? It's Ren Shrode. If you don't get rid of him now, he will take everything from you, and your life will end in prison, shunned with no one on your side." The prince backed down and asked, "Who are you? And why did you come here?" The mysterious man smiled and threw a cursed ring at him, then said, "This is a cursed tool that kills its target immediately. Take it, and take Ren quickly." The prince looked at the ring. His features began to fill with greed, and he was overwhelmed with the joy of revenge. The prince looked out the window but did not find the mysterious man, as if he had disappeared in a flash. He felt that a catastrophe was imminent. At the time, the girl who had been tortured by the prince was being held in her cell, barely able to move from the intensity of the beating, and she prayed to God that someone would come to her rescue. Indeed, Stella arrived with her soldiers at the palace gate to arrest the ruler and his son for their corruption. But palace guards refused to let them in, and mobilized large numbers of soldiers to confront them. But Kennedy and Tanya were on the lookout for these soldiers. As the prince watched the battlefield, he was eagerly awaiting Ren's appearance so he could use the cursed ring to kill him. The atmosphere was tense, and everything suggested that things would soon turn upside down. Meanwhile, Ren arrived at the palace using the camouflage spell done by Sora and Rona, and then asked them to sneak into the palace and find the whereabouts of the captives to rescue them. The girls used a monitoring spell and indeed were able to locate the prisoners, but were surprised by the presence of a very dangerous entity in one of the palace prisons. Sora said anxiously to him, "Rin, there's a very strong energy in one of the cells. It seems to be one of the strongest categories like us." Ren answered her firmly, "Free the captives and save them. I'm going to go to the power supply and see what's going on there." The girls were scared, but he reassured them, "Don't worry, I'll come back safely. Then go to the unknown power source." When he opened the door, he found a girl trapped inside a cell, visible marks of torture on her body. Ren broke down the cell door and rushed towards her to help her. The girl was terrified and didn't know how to act, but he calmly told her, "Don't worry, I'm here to save you." The girl broke down in tears and fell on his lap. It turned out later that her name was Nina, and she was one of the most powerful beings of all time. She told her story to Ren, crying, "I used to live in a peaceful village, and everyone loved me, but the prince came one day and threatened me that he would torture all the people of my village in front of me and kill them if I did not surrender myself to him. I had no choice, so I put on the bondage bracelet and became a prisoner with him, subjected to all forms of torture." Ren was angry and moved by her words, then firmly told her, "Don't worry, you'll be freed now." But Nina backed down, saying, "You can't. The bracelet has a very dangerous spell on it, and if you try to remove it, you may die." Ren smiled confidently and said, "Don't worry, I'll deal with it." Nina surrendered to him, and Ren began to untie the bracelet. But as soon as he touched him, the spell unleashed violent electric shocks that swept through his entire body. Nina shouted, "Stop! You're going to die." But do you think Ren will back down after everything that happened to her? He gathered all his strength, focused his full energy, and finally, he managed to break the bracelet and save her. Nina was stunned by what he had done and thanked him with tears of joy. At that moment, the battle outside the palace was raging. The cavalry was fighting the guards, and Kanade and Tanya managed to eliminate half of the guards alone. But the large numbers were still a threat. Some guards tried to use the captives as hostages, but Sora and Rona quickly confronted them after moving all the abductees to safety. Meanwhile, the governor walked into the prince's room and asked him, "What's going on?" The prince smiled maliciously and said, "Don't worry, just a bunch of insects, I'll wipe them out myself. You run away and leave them to me." The governor nodded, took his bag, and began to run away. Meanwhile, Rain and Nina had met Kennedy and Tanya inside the palace. Everyone was surprised to find Nina with Ren, but soon realized that she had become their ally. Kennedy approached Nina and joked, "Well, you look stronger than I expected." Everyone laughed and felt that things were starting to work in their favor. Suddenly, the governor appeared trying to escape from the palace, but they stopped and disarmed him. Now, only the prince is left. Indeed, the prince appeared in front of them, and then did the cursed ring. A spirit-reaping spirit appeared in front of Ren, holding the sickle of death, as if preparing to end his life. Is this really the end of it? On the roof of the palace, Arius was listening to what was happening. He smiled maliciously and said, "Finally, I got rid of you, Ren." Then he turned around and left the place. But contrary to expectations, Ren is not dead. He didn't even hurt. Everyone was shocked. How did that happen? It turns out that due to Rena's contract with Sora and Rona, he acquired two main powers. From Sorat, the ability to control magic, which he previously used to protect people from the attack of the prince. From Rona, the ability to analyze spells and protect oneself from them, even if it is the spell of the Death Scythe. Rona had figured it out earlier, even tried a poisonous spell on him, but he wasn't affected by it. The prince could not believe what had happened, and his anger flared even more. But when he looked at Ren and saw Nina standing next to him, his hatred exploded unnaturally. The cursed ring in his hand began to glow. He fulfilled all the conditions for activation. An ominous energy came out of him that began to swallow the prince completely. Everyone stood stunned. Even Ren couldn't believe what was happening. He tried to attack the mysterious energy, but there was no use. And suddenly, the energy froze and began to break. A giant hand appeared from within. It was so huge that everyone froze in their places from the horror of the view. After that, the whole body appeared. Rin's eyes widened, and he froze in place. He knew this being. He is the devil who killed his parents and completely destroyed his village. It seems that a major catastrophe is about to happen. Now Satan looked at Rain and his companions and said with a malicious smile, "I was thinking about killing you now, but I think I'll go and enjoy killing more first." He then left for the center of the capital, where there are the largest number of people, to begin another bloody massacre. Ren and his team were outraged and realized they had to move quickly to save the innocent. They had no choice but to catch up with the devil and stop him at all costs. At the same time, Stella was tasked with protecting Nina, evacuating the city's residents to safe places. When they reached Satan's position, they found that he had already begun to kill and destroy, crushing everyone who encountered him without mercy. Satan turned to them with a wry smile and said, "Good, you have come to entertain me." But Kennedy didn't wait for him to finish, so she ran towards him and gave him a powerful kick that knocked him down, while Renas took advantage of the opportunity and tied him up with his weapon. But Satan was very powerful, and he easily managed to free himself. At that moment, Sora and Rona launched a huge ice spell, which completely covered the earth with a layer of ice. But the surprise was that the devil was not hurt at all. He laughed sarcastically and told them, Fighting 5 against 1? That's not fair. I think I need some help. He then summoned a massive army of monsters, and they began attacking Ren and his team. At first, they were able to repel attacks, but the numbers never ended. The devil seized the opportunity and dealt an ominous magic blow to Kennedy, which severely injured her. Rin, Sora, and Rona rushed to her to treat her, while Tani tried to fend off the magic in any way, but she was also injured, even though her dragon spirit protected her from the full impact of the attack. Then, Satan raised his hands to heaven and unleashed a magic spell that split into several parts and fell on the city. Ren got very angry and fired magic shots. At the same time, Sora and Rona used the fairy magic to restrict him, giving Ren the opportunity to use the reinforcement spell on Kanadi and Tanya. He told them, "Now finish him." The two girls jumped towards the devil, directing a barrage of attacks at him, severely injuring him and throwing him into the sky. Then followed another attack with the magic of the fairies, which led to the amputation of his arm. But even this was not enough to defeat him. The devil summoned more monsters until the place was completely filled with them, and then withdrew to a high place to start a devastating spell that could wipe out the entire city. At this moment, Rain had an idea, but it was impossible to implement in the current chaos. Rona decided to move the residents to safe places, while Kanadi and Tanya provided support and protection to Ren as he fought. The fairies arrived at Stella, who was fiercely fighting the monsters, and they told her the plan. Stella understood the situation and immediately began to gather civilians and guide them towards the transition gate created by Sora and Rona. Nina stayed with the girls to protect them. Meanwhile, Kanadi and Tanya were fighting monsters fiercely, prompting Rin to try to help them, but told him he had to save his energy to confront the devil. Sora and Rona had completed the transition gate, but the residents were reluctant to cross, especially after learning of the fact that it was created by fairies. But because of what Rain and the girls did to protect the city, people began to take courage, agreeing to cross quickly before the monsters reached them. On the other side, Rain and his companions had been trapped by endless monsters. But before the fight began, the cavalry arrived in full force to join the battle. An official order has been issued by the guild to help the Ren team eliminate the devil, after it turns out that the fake hero and his team were hiding without moving. Antar, the powerful blacksmith, was distributing real weapons to everyone, making the battle more balanced. At that moment, Nina was upset because she was the only one who had not helped yet, even though she was one of the strongest categories. Therefore, she decided to leave Sora and Rona and head towards Ren, who was trying to perform a special spell on the devil, but was unable due to the large distance between them. She needed a spell to convey it directly to the devil. But who can do that? Of course, Nina. As the fox's soul, it has a unique ability to navigate instantly wherever you want. When Ren realized this, he asked her to help him, and she immediately agreed. While Kanadi and Tanya were battling monsters, Rin carried Nina on his back. Then they quickly set off towards the devil. The devil saw them and tried to hit them, but Ren used his weapon to dodge attacks brilliantly. The devil then collected a huge amount of black energy and released it towards them. But at the last moment, Rin used Nina's ability to move instantly and appeared right in front of the devil. The devil was shocked by his speed and tried to escape, but to where? Ren angrily told him, "You won't get away with me this time." He then cast the ultimate strengthening spell on himself, dealing a tremendous blow to Satan, completely restraining him. Satan's energy began to gather around Ren, and he was about to die, but he remembered all the people he had to protect, and he regained his power again. He shouted in a loud voice, "This is your end, Satan!" He then used the power of controlling the beasts and issued an order to all the monsters summoned by Satan, "Eliminate your master." The monsters began to madly attack Satan, tearing him apart and devouring him piece by piece until there was nothing left, and so on. Ren's and his team won. The magical remnants of the devil began to fade, while Rain and Nina fell completely exhausted. But before they hit the ground, Tanya flew quickly, grabbed them at the last minute. Everyone stood looking at each other, and then the city exploded with shouts of joy and victory. After the battle, Nina dressed cleanly, then approached Ren and said excitedly, "I want to join your team." Ren liked the idea and decided to make a contract with her as well. Indeed, the contract was made, and Nina became an official member of the team, making everyone very happy to have the youngest member join them. Ren then went to the Adventurers Guild to inform them that Nina had joined his team. There, he met Stella, who told him that she was working with the Union to rebuild the city and repair the destroyed houses. This was a move that had never happened before, making everyone feel hopeful for a better future. One Union employee congratulated him, saying, "Ren, you have defeated the devil. I've risen to 3rd rank now." Everyone rejoiced at the news, and Ren was delighted. After that, he asked her about a suitable home for the team, especially as their number increased and they needed a bigger place to live. The employee smiled and said, "I have the solution. I'll show you some available houses." They started searching, but they didn't like any house until they finally got to a house that seemed quite a fit. The employee told them, "This house has all the specifications you are looking for, but it only has one problem." Ren asked her, "And what is it?" She replied seriously, "He is haunted. There's a ghost living in it." At that moment, Kennedy was so terrified that she was on the verge of losing consciousness from fear. But Ren reassured her, saying, "Let's check it first, and if we don't like it, we won't take it." They entered the house and found it very clean, and there was nothing strange in it. But as soon as they reached the lounge, the ground began to shake, and the objects moved by themselves. Then they heard a frightening voice saying to them, "Leave this place immediately." Kennedy almost lost consciousness, while the ghost appeared in front of them trying to scare them. Surat and Rona attacked him, but their attacks did not affect him. The ghost tried to scare them again, but Ren and his companions showed no fear, leaving him confused. That's when they realized that this ghost doesn't have any offensive techniques, and all it can do is just talk. Sora and Rona activated a spell to lock him up, and Rain then installed him using a technique he had previously heard in his village. Yes, even ghosts can tame Ren. Everyone sat talking with the ghost, only to find out that her name was Tina. She told them her whole story, and then told them, "Since you didn't run away, I'll leave this place to you." But do you think Ren would let her go so easily? Of course not. Ren suggested that she stay with them and live at home, and everyone happily agreed to the idea. Tina was so happy that she decided to stay with them. After that, Ren officially finalized the house purchase papers from the guild, and the house became the property of the team. When they returned home, everyone sat around the same table and started eating together. The atmosphere was full of joy, and everyone was feeling the warmth of the family. Ren looked at them, then remembered his old family, and his eyes filled with tears, but he was grateful for the new life he is now living. Thus, the team lived happily together, ready for new adventures in the future. Imagine turning from a worthless old man into a powerful hero whom everyone wishes to approach. Did you imagine it, my friend? Alright, let's begin. Our story starts with Ryoma, a miserable employee working in a soul-draining company. The manager constantly overloaded him with tasks, ignored the rest of the employees, and poured all the insults and humiliation on him alone. Yet Ryoma remained silent, never defending himself, and continued to endure this humiliation until he died. But after that, the young man discovered that he had been transported to another world. There, he found 3 mages with strange appearances who didn't seem to be from Earth, and he learned from them that he had died. Why did he die, my friend? Because while he was sleeping, he sneezed 4 powerful sneezes, which caused his brain to rupture, and his blood vessels exploded, leading him to pass away. And of course, when Ryoma found out he had died because of a sneeze, he went insane. He said to himself, "I spent my whole life enduring humiliation and beatings since I was a child. Even my boss at work showed no mercy. One day he even hit me on the head with a bottle. And still, I endured it all, only to die from a sneeze? What a humiliating death." But never mind. He calmed himself afterward, remembering the saying, "Causes may differ, but death is one." After that, he learned from the 3 mages that they would transfer him to a magical world. But he wouldn't go there as Ryoma, the 35-year-old employee. Instead, he would be reincarnated as an 8-year-old boy. And not only that, he would possess great magical power that he could use as he pleased. He also learned from them that there was a rift between the Earth and the world he was going to, and that this new world was called Sealfall. One of the mages told him, "The world you came from contains a vast amount of magic, but humans are unable to perceive it. A large portion of that magic will be transferred with you to the world of Sealfall, and you will have incredible power." Then, they made him sign a contract confirming that he agreed to be reincarnated in the form of a child, and the transfer was carried out. Ryoma's body was drawn into the other world, and at that moment, the mages realized that he had arrived and could now do whatever he wished. They told him they would always be watching him, and if he ever wanted to contact them, he only had to go to the church. Without even speaking a word, they would know what he wanted. After that, Ryoma began his new life in Sealfall. There, he found himself transformed into a young boy, 8 years old, old, just as they had told him. Beside him was a book containing everything about his powers, since he was not yet used to his new body, his strength, or anything else. He then began testing his physical abilities. He walked to a tree nearby and kicked it with his foot. Instantly, the tree split in half. He was greatly impressed by this. Then, he noticed a slime creature nearby, and his eyes sparkled with stars because he loved such monsters very much. He tried to make the slime reveal its powers, but it didn't respond to him. So, he had to unlock his own magic to find the spell that would allow him to control the creature. But the book was filled with so many spells that he didn't know where to start. He threw all the books aside and did a quick meditation, and then the magic was summoned, and he succeeded in controlling the slime. He walked with it and decided to live in the Jana forest. Naturally, he was very happy because he would now live freely, with no annoying boss to ruin his peace. He also decided to gather as many slimes as possible to live with him and follow all his commands. And indeed, after 3 years, we see Ryoma waking up in his house, located inside a cave in the Jana forest. He was living with 1,000 slimes, each group having a specific form and function. For example, there were slimes that ate larvae and produced extremely strong thread that Ryoma used for hunting. Another type was acidic slime that could melt anything, bones, metal, anything in its way. The poisonous slime only consumed toxic herbs and produced a very potent poison. Another type sterilized anything it came across, as it fed on germs, and the last type loved eating garbage and turned it into agricultural fertilizer. One day, Ryoma went out into the forest to hunt. He knew that he might encounter monsters or ogres, but he was used to facing and defeating them with ease. However, this time, instead of finding an animal to hunt or a monster to fight, he found a group of knights with an injured companion named Hughes, whose wound looked very severe. The healer with them, named Camille, was unable to treat him using magic, and it seemed that the man was on the verge of death before their eyes. When Ryoma saw what had happened, he approached them to try and treat the injured man. However, the knights were afraid of him and raised their swords to stop him, but our hero didn't even flinch. He calmly offered them a potion he had crafted himself and said, "Give him some of this medicine, and I guarantee he'll be fine." His voice was weak, as he hadn't spoken to a human being in 3 years, but the boy quickly regained control of the situation and told them, "Try this medicine. You won't regret it." The healer took the potion from him and tested it, and instantly realized that it was incredibly effective and would certainly help Hughes. Indeed, after Hughes drank it, he fell into a deep sleep. At that point, the knights sheathed their swords and thanked Ryoma for saving their companion. Ryoma then offered to take them to his home so they could rest a little, and naturally, the knights agreed. They carried their sleeping friend and followed Ryoma through the forest toward his home. They were deeply puzzled. How could a child so young live alone in such a place? From his clothing, they could tell he was a hunter, but the situation still felt mysterious. Then, Ryoma suddenly stopped, sensing that a creature was approaching. The knights immediately prepared to fight, but what came toward them wasn't a monster, it was a slime. The knights didn't realize this slime was Ryoma's pet. Seeing their confusion, Ryoma told them, "Lower your weapons. This slime is my friend." They listened to him, sheathed their swords again, and apologized for the misunderstanding. They continued walking through the forest, and during the journey, Rain said to Ryoma that when he was young, he used to live in a house full of slimes. His family had been taming them for generations, in addition to red horses, storm apes, and other rare creatures, all of which were extremely expensive and difficult to obtain. That's when Ryoma realized that Rain came from a very wealthy family. After some time, they reached the mountain, and Ryoma told them, "My house is here." They were stunned and thought to themselves, "Is this boy crazy? Where's the house he's talking about?" Then, Ryoma cast a spell to remove the magical barrier, revealing a house hidden inside the mountain. The knights finally understood. When they entered the house, they laid Hughes on Ryoma's bed and saw for themselves that he lived alone. The furniture consisted only of a table, a chair, and a few items fit for just one person. Thinking back on everything Ryoma had done since they met him in the forest, the knights began to suspect that he might actually be an old man who used magic to disguise himself as a child. Then, Ryoma brought out a box full of bottles containing the magical medicine he had used to treat their friend. He told them that he made this medicine himself. He also served them cold water with ice, which shocked them since ice in that world could only be made through magic. They asked him how he cast such a spell, and he smiled and said, "Ah, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Ryoma, an 11-year-old hunter. It's a pleasure to meet you." One of the knights replied, "It's a pleasure for me as well. I'm Rain, a noble from the Duchy of Jamil." Ryoma bowed to him respectfully and said, "It's a great honor to have a noble like you visit my home." Rain replied, "Come on now. I owe you for saving one of my men." The others began introducing themselves. One said he was a healer. Another said, "I'm a scout, and my name is Zeph." The last one said, "I'm a knight, and my name is Gil. I apologize for pointing my sword at you earlier." Ryoma responded, "Oh, don't worry about it. It happens even in the finest of families." Then Rain explained what had happened. "While we were in the forest, we were attacked by bandits, but we managed to defeat them. After that, we encountered a massive black bear and killed it too. But before it died, it wounded Hughes, as you saw. When the horses saw the bear, they ran off." Rain then asked, "What would make a young boy like you, a hunter with knowledge of magic spells, live in this forest instead of a village? Why are you living alone here? Where are your family and relatives?" Ryoma replied, "The people in the village see me as a strange child, so I don't feel comfortable living there. By the way, I used to live with my grandfather and grandmother, but they passed away 3 years ago. Since then, I've been living here alone." At that point, the healer Camille brought out a magical crystal ball and explained that when someone touches it, it can detect whether they are a criminal or not. If the person is a criminal, the ball glows red. If not, it glows blue. It can also reveal the person's name, age, and combat abilities. Camille asked Ryoma to place his hand on the crystal. Ryoma felt trapped, but he had no choice but to comply to avoid suspicion. He placed his hand on the ball, and it glowed blue. However, Camille seemed surprised by something he saw. Ryoma asked him, "What did you see?" Camille replied, "Oh, nothing. It's just that you don't seem to have any combat skills." Ryoma said, "Don't worry, it's nothing. I'll go prepare dinner for you." He then left the room. Rain asked Camille, "What did you see in the crystal that shocked you like that?" Camille showed him what was written inside, that Ryoma was 11 years old, and that he had the ability to resist both physical and mental pain. Rain then said to his companions, "We can't leave him alone in this forest. I'm going back to the castle to tell my father Elise about Ryoma." Shortly after, Hughes had fully recovered. He thanked Ryoma for everything he had done for him, but when he started to show signs of fatigue again, Ryoma gave him a potion that smelled awful. Hughes refused to drink it, so Camille forced it down his throat. Once the potion took effect, Hughes returned to perfect health, even better than before. He then said to Ryoma, "You saved the life of the Duke's personal bodyguard. I'll never forget this favor. If you ever come to Joanna, you must visit me there." After that, they all said goodbye and left. A week later, Ryoma was surprised when the healer returned to his home, and this time, he was accompanied by a girl as beautiful as the moon, and she was the same age as Ryoma. At the beginning, everyone started introducing themselves. The first was the elderly man, Jamil, who turned out to be Rain's father, and also the former Duke of the Kingdom. Then Elise, Rain's wife, introduced herself and thanked Ryoma for what he had done for her husband and his knights. Ryoma replied politely, "I only did what anyone should." At that moment, Rain introduced his daughter, Elia. Ryoma's face turned red with embarrassment, as it was the first time he had ever seen a girl his age. Not knowing how to escape the awkward situation, he said, "I would have liked to host you properly, but my house is humble and may not be fitting." Jamil laughed and replied, "Don't say that. It's more than enough that we came without even giving you notice." Then Jamil noticed the slime surrounding Ryoma and said in amazement, "What in the world? I've never seen this many slimes before. How did you manage to tame them all?" Rain, also surprised, asked, "Have their numbers increased since the last time?" Ryoma responded, "Yes, they've multiplied. Each one has split into 2. Elia then asked, "Do they know their way to your home?" Ryoma replied, "Yes, I've trained them to memorize the route." Then Ryoma gave the slimes a command to expand. All the slimes gathered together and transformed into a single giant slime. Elia gasped and asked, "How did you do that?" Ryoma explained, "I can merge more than 100 slimes of the same type into one large slime, like what you're seeing now. It helps them enter the house quickly. Once inside, I return them to their normal size so the house can accommodate them." Everyone was astonished by Ryoma's skill in slime taming. Elise couldn't believe what she saw. She approached Ryoma and said, "How can you talk as if what you do is normal? You're a brilliant tamer and hunter. There's no one like you. That's why you must register your name with the Tamers Guild and share this genius discovery of yours." Ryoma replied, "I'll think about it later." Then he gave the slimes the command to return to their original size. things, and they did. Everyone then entered the house. At that moment, Rain presented Ryoma with a gift, a golden pocket watch, and said, "I noticed your home doesn't have a clock. Thought I'd bring you one that might be useful." Ryoma gratefully accepted the gift and thanked him with a smile. Then Ilia said, "By the way, we didn't come just to bring you a watch. I come from one of the greatest tamer families in the kingdom, and I want to capture my first slime by myself, without help. Since you're an expert in slime taming, I'd like you to suggest the best place where slimes gather, so I can catch my very first one." Ryoma pointed to a small lake on a hand-drawn map of the forest and said, "Slimes usually gather here to drink. If you go to that spot, you'll definitely be able to catch one." Ilia replied, "Now I know the place, but I still haven't decided what kind of slime I want as my first pet. What do you recommend? I've never seen that white slime of yours before. What is it exactly?" Ryoma said, "Those brown slimes you see eat trash and waste. They remove anything with a bad smell and turn it into compost, which I use for farming." Elia began writing down everything Ryoma said so she wouldn't forget. She told him this was the first time she had ever heard of this slime type. Then Ryoma picked up a white slime and said, "This one is called a cleaning slime. It can clean and disinfect anything." He pulled out a cloth and told her, "This cloth was from a fight I had with a goblin in the forest. I defeated it." He then handed the cloth to the slime, and within moments, the slime cleaned it until it looked brand new, better than any washing machine in the world. To prove that cleaning slimes don't eat flesh unless ordered to, Ryoma dipped his hand inside it and nothing happened. With excitement, Elia said, "I've decided. My first slime will be this cute white cleaning slime, and I want you to teach me how to catch one." Ryoma's face turned red again and he said, "I can't teach a girl like you how to catch a slime." It was clear he was shy and reluctant, but all the men in the house gathered around him. When he explained how to catch a cleaning slime, their faces also turned red, except for Hughes, who said, "Leave this mission to us, gentlemen." Then he turned to Elia and the other women and said, "It's really simple. Cleaning slimes love bath water. All you have to do, Elia, is take a bath, collect the used water, go to the lake, and pour it there. The cleaning slime will come straight to you and you'll be able to tame it." At that moment, Hughes received a strong punch to the face, but Elia followed his instructions, went out, and successfully caught her first slime. By the end of the day, she returned holding her new slime with a bright smile. Everyone congratulated her on the achievement. That's when Ryoma recalled the day he caught his very first slime. He remembered how happy he was with it, so much so that he named it Tabut, after his dearest friend. Then Elise asked Ryoma, "What do you plan to do next?" He answered, "I haven't decided yet. I might keep living here in the forest, or maybe I'll travel to another city. Depends on my mood." Rain said to him, "How about joining us on our journey to the city? And if you ever wish to return here, you can do so whenever you like." Noticing Ryoma's hesitation, Elia said, "By the way, this is my first journey too. I was very scared, and I still am. But because I agreed to join this trip, I've been through many adventures. I've learned a lot, and there's still so much more to learn. I'm sure we'll come across many things on the road that will teach us even more." Convinced by her words, Ryoma replied, "Well then, if that's the case, I'll go with you." Rain smiled and said, "Gather all your belongings and give them to Sebas, my steward. He'll store them in the magic chest." But Ryoma chuckled and replied, "Come now, Duke. Have you forgotten I'm a magician? I'll store my things myself." Rain was surprised. How is that possible? No magician can use a magic chest unless he's grown older, studied all forms of magic, and reached a high level. At that moment, Elise's eyes lit up with excitement. "If you want to learn any new spells," she said to Ryoma, "just tell me, and I'll share all my magical knowledge with you." Before Ryoma could answer, Elia added eagerly, "Say yes, we'll learn together." He smiled and said, "If we're learning together, then of course I'll accept." He then left to gather his belongings, placing everything neatly into his own magical chest until the house was completely emptied. After that, they all stepped outside, and Ryoma sealed the house using the protection barrier spell. Sebas summoned 2 large magical carriages pulled by horses. They split into 2 groups, Ryoma, Ilia, her mother and father, along with Sebas in one carriage, while Rain and the others rode in the second. As the journey began, Ilia turned to Ryoma and asked, "Tell me, Prince, can you really control the elements of fire, water, earth, and air?" Ryoma answered calmly, "Of course, my grandmother taught me all types of magic." Rain was shocked. "You mean you can use barrier magic, taming magic, and all 4 elemental types? That's insane. People like you are extremely rare and hold high status among magicians, Ryoma responded. And what would you say if I told you I also practice healing magic and alchemy? Jamil immediately warned him. Alchemy? That's an incredibly rare form of magic. Only a handful of mages can use it, and most who do are dark mages. Don't let its power tempt you into doing something reckless. Ryoma replied confidently, "Don't worry, Grandpa. I'm not like them. Honestly, I didn't even know alchemy was that rare. And in any case, I only use it for beneficial purposes." Then Ryoma thought to himself, these people are strange. Every time I mention something I can do, they act like it's some kind of miracle. I hope things don't get weirder from here. Things went smoothly until rain began to fall. Sebas pulled a blanket from his magical chest and handed it to Elise. Suddenly, the carriage came to a stop. Ryoma stepped outside, wearing a magical cloak he had crafted himself, using a special substance secreted by toxic slimes, which made the cloak waterproof. As he inspected the situation, Jamil whispered to his wife, "Imagine how much Ryoma could make if he sold that cloak to Sergei, the merchant who owns Morgan Trading Company." Meanwhile, Ryoma found the knights in disarray. A section of the mountain had collapsed, completely blocking the path. Ryoma stepped forward and said confidently, "Leave this to me." First, he cast a protection spell over everyone to shield them from the rain. Then, he used a powerful spell to lift the massive rocks blocking the road. It took the entire night, but when he finished, everyone thanked him sincerely. They continued their journey, and after 3 days, they arrived at the city of Jamiul. There, they checked into a hotel. As Ryoma entered his room and opened the window, he looked out onto the city's main street. We learn then that the city is well known for its mines, where laborers extract various minerals. However, production in recent times had declined significantly. That's why the Duke had come, to assess which mines would remain operational and which would be shut down. Since Ryoma didn't have an identification card, the Duke and his family took him to the church to receive what's known as a status element, similar to a personal ID. Upon arriving at the church, the clerk told him, "Take this item, place it in front of the crystal, and touch the crystal." Ryoma did as instructed. Suddenly he was transported to the place where he had once met the 3 mages who had sent him to the world of Salfel. Seeing them, he panicked. "What's going on? Did I die again?" They laughed and replied, "No, you're not dead. We just missed you and thought we'd check in." Then they added, "We're really impressed with your progress in this world, especially your house in the forest. But the best part? The bathroom is always spotless." Ryoma chuckled. "Well, I can't take credit for that. All thanks goes to the cleaning slime." They then revealed a surprising truth. There never was a cleaning slime, or even a garbage-eating slime. You created those species yourself, evolving them from other slime types. But that wasn't the only surprise. Ryoma learned that many other humans had been transported to the world of Salfel, some of whom had become members of noble families. For example, there was a woman highly skilled in magic who established a school for training in spellcasting and monster taming. She eventually met one of the Duke's ancestors, fell in love, and married him. That's how Elia inherited her magical abilities from her earthborn grandmother. Ryoma was overwhelmed with joy to discover that Elia also had roots in the earthly world. When one of the mages saw the joy in Ryoma's eyes, he thought to himself, "Let me ruin this moment for him a little." Then suddenly threw him a remark saying, "There was another person before you who was transported from Earth to our world, but he used the magical power we granted him for evil. However, he eventually managed to control himself and return to the path of good magic." Then the mage added, addressing Ryoma, "Be very careful. The magical energy you possess will attract leaders from both the good and evil realms of magic. Stay vigilant." Ryoma confidently replied, "Don't worry about me. I'll know how to keep them in check." After that, Ryoma returned once more to the world of Selfil, received his status element card from the clerk, then headed to meet the Duke and his family, who had learned that he had completed the registration process. At that moment, Jamil jokingly said to him, "Now that you've become a fully equipped young man, I'd like to offer you some useful advice about the city." Ryoma smiled and replied, "Please do, Grandpa. We always learn from your experience." Jamil spoke in a serious tone. "You must be cautious. Your magical abilities far surpass those of other children your age, and this could lead many criminals to target you, either to learn magic from you or to exploit your powers for their own purposes. That's why you should avoid showing your abilities in front of ordinary people and refrain from attracting attention. I know it's difficult, but you must try. Better yet, you should register with one of the magic guilds." At that moment, Ryoma noticed that the young girl wanted to say something but was hesitant, so he said, "What's wrong? It seems like you want to ask me something but are too shy to say it." She replied timidly, "It's nothing. I just wanted to know, how much magical power do you have?" He answered, 198,000. She was astonished and said, Can you really control all that power? We have many mages with far less magical energy than that, yet they still can't control their abilities. He asked her, and you? How much magical power do you have? She responded, 2,000, and still, I can't control it. He gently said, that's all right. It's simple. Practice using it again and again, and you'll gradually gain control. She was impressed by the idea and asked, where did you get that idea from? He replied playfully, that's the difference in abilities, my dear. After that, they went to the Magic Guild, but the guild refused to accept Ryoma, as joining required summoning and controlling a magical beast. Ryoma, however, always had his beasts with him and never needed to summon them. So the Duke and his companions took him to the Adventurers Guild, where the guild master himself conducted Ryoma's test. The first test involved hitting stationary targets with arrows, and Ryoma succeeded with a single hit for each target. The guild master said, excellent, now let's make it harder with moving targets. But that didn't faze Ryoma, as he struck every moving target with incredible precision. Then came the final test, where the master threw a dagger at him to test his reaction. Ryoma not only caught the dagger with his hand, but also threw it back at the master using a magical spell to summon a weapon and attacked him with it. The master laughed and said, I was just testing you, kid. You passed with flying colors, all 3 tests. Afterward, the guild master handed him the Adventurers Guild membership card, categorizing him as a G-rank adventurer, the lowest rank. He said, I'll have you start from the bottom of the ladder, so the other adventurers won't grow envious of you. Ryoma replied, all right, no problem. Ryoma received his first mission, which was to clean houses and bathrooms. The next day, he went to his first assignment. When he knocked on the door, a well-groomed cat opened it. Her name was Maya, and she belonged to a race known as the Beastkin. This was Ryoma's first time seeing a cat. As soon as the door opened, a foul odor wafted from inside, making it hard for Ryoma to breathe, unlike the trash slimes, who leaped into the box, eager to devour the garbage scattered everywhere. Ryoma then discovered that Maya's house was next to the waste area, and the shared wall had partially collapsed, allowing the trash to invade her home. No one had agreed to clean her house because of how much filth had accumulated, and she had lost all hope that someone would help her. So when Ryoma told her he would clean it, she couldn't believe it, and burst into tears of joy. Then Ryoma opened the slime box and said, let's get to work. They started with the dump site, where the slimes consumed all the garbage. Then Ryoma used the water control spell and thoroughly washed the place. After that, they moved to Maya's home. The trash slimes repeated their task with dedication. A gap in the damaged wall became visible. Ryoma called on the sticky slime to assist him, then used the stone spell to realign and attach the stones. After finishing the repair, he disinfected the area and finally handed Maya back her home, now clean and restored. She wept again from happiness, unable to believe her house was back to normal, and thanked Ryoma deeply. Ryoma jokingly said, no need to thank me, my little cat, just doing my job. Then, he had her sign the mission completion form, which she did with joy. The news of his excellent work reached the Adventurers Guild, and they decided to reward him with a large bonus. When he returned to the guild, the receptionist couldn't believe he had completed Maya's house in such a short time. She handed him a bag full of money. He asked in surprise, what is all this? That's a huge amount. She replied, it was Maya. She asked us to double your pay. After that, the guildmaster called him in for something important. When they sat down, Ryoma said, I know what it is. Cleaning the public restrooms, right? The master laughed and said, exactly. But be careful, this is a task requested directly by the government. He explained that the government used to pay poor villagers wages to clean public toilets, but the minister ordered the budget cut due to a national crisis, as the mines were no longer operating as before. Ryoma said, I know that. But what happened to the villagers is unjust. I don't think the Duke would ever approve of such a thing. I'll report it to him myself. When he returned to the palace, he informed them of what had happened. The Duke grew furious and said, how could this happen? There must be theft going on inside the ministry. I never stopped paying the wages of the villagers who clean the public toilets. The full payments are still being issued. An immediate investigation must be launched so we can catch that corrupt minister. He then asked Ryoma to temporarily take on the task of cleaning the public toilets until the issue could be resolved. Ryoma agreed, of course. Afterward, the young man went to the public restroom area, and as soon as he opened the door to the first bathroom, he was struck by a horrible stench. He and the slimes immediately began cleaning. Since the slimes consumed a large amount of waste, each one split into two, which helped Ryoma complete the job much faster. However, Ryoma was shocked to discover the presence of toxic gases inside the public toilets. He quickly reported this to the Duke and his family. They were all deeply worried about him, but he reassured them, saying, "My body is immune to all kinds of poisons, so there's no danger to me. But if the villagers come near these toilets, they could die just from inhaling the fumes. That's why we need guards to protect the area during the cleaning process." The Duke then assigned a group of adventurers to accompany Ryoma and guard the restrooms during his work. The next day, the adventurers went with Ryoma, and while he was working, Elise arrived with the servants carrying food and juice for him. The adventurers didn't let them enter the restrooms, so they asked the servants to deliver the food to Ryoma, and everyone agreed. In the evening, Ryoma stepped out to take a short break, ate his meal, and drank some juice. In the morning, when the adventurers asked him to take a proper rest, he replied, "I won't rest until I finish the job." He returned inside to continue the cleaning, and the adventurers were amazed by his courage and strength. After some time, Ryoma completed the cleaning of all the public toilets. When he exited the last restroom, Maya greeted him and said, "Well done, hero." Then, the young man went to the Adventurers Guild and said to the guildmaster, "I finished cleaning all 30 toilets." The guildmaster replied with admiration, "Well done, adventurer. Expect a great reward from us. Now go home and get some well-deserved rest." The following morning, as Ryoma was leaving the Adventurers Guild, he remembered his days back on Earth, when he used to work late into the night, only to return home in the morning and find his mother waiting for him. At that time, he felt that someone truly cared about him and about his life. But after his mother passed away, he returned to an empty home, and though it saddened him at first, he gradually grew used to being alone, used to having no one in the world. But this time, when he returned to the Duke's palace, he found the Duke and his entire family waiting for him, eager to make sure he was all right. Ryoma couldn't hold back his emotions and began crying out of pure joy. He said to them, "It's been so long since I last felt like I had a family that cared about me. I don't know how to thank you." Elise approached him gently and said, "From this day on, you do have a family that loves you and worries about you. Don't worry about anything. We're here for you. Everything is going to be just fine." The next morning, Elia woke up early and began preparing breakfast for Ryoma, with help from her mother and the servants. When Ryoma saw the royal-style breakfast, he asked, "Did you prepare this yourself?" Hughes joked, "Don't let it get to your head. It's just a little bribe, so you'll agree to what she's about to ask." Ryoma laughed and replied, "You don't need a bribe. You only have to ask." Elia said, "I was sure that the eggs I made for breakfast would win you over and get you to agree." Hughes added, "Indeed, your cooking is simply irresistible." Pretending not to hear him, Elia said, "Ryoma, I want you to teach me magic today." He answered, "With pleasure." After breakfast, they all went to a place near the forest, and Ryoma began teaching her how to control dark magic, water, and wind. At first it was difficult for her, but eventually she managed to wield the magic just like he did. Then the healer turned to Ryoma and asked, "Tell me, how do you use magic in combat?" Ryoma replied, "I'm not very skilled in that area." The healer then wanted to demonstrate, so he cast a flame arrow spell and shot it at a nearby mountain, breaking off a piece of it. Ryoma then used his own flame arrow and shattered a much larger portion of the mountain. The healer laughed in surprise and said, all right, you've surpassed me. Come on, let me teach you more." He then began showing Ryoma how to use water, wind, fire, and ice magic all at once in battle. And as expected, the student quickly outshone his teacher. Then, Seba stepped forward and said, "Now it's my turn. I'm going to teach you spatial magic." He continued, "Spatial magic, my friend, allows a magician to teleport from one place to another in less than a second." Ryoma replied, "Oh, come on!" And suddenly, he vanished from where he stood and reappeared in a nearby spot with incredible speed. Sebas said in amazement, "Excellent! Now I want you to teleport all the way to that distant mountain." Ryoma asked, "How do I do that?" Sebas replied, "It's simple. Just focus on the exact point you want to move to. It's easier than you think." Ryoma followed the instructions and successfully teleported to the top of the mountain in seconds. At that same moment, Sebas appeared beside him and said, "Well done, hero. You learned that incredibly fast. Now I'll teach you how to use spatial magic to teleport living beings from one place to another." At that moment, Sebas used spatial magic to open a portal capable of transferring living beings from one place to another. He then began teaching Ryoma how to open such a portal himself. Ryoma kept trying over and over until he finally succeeded, and he felt overwhelming joy. This spatial rift would allow him to transport slimes from place to place without having to pack them into boxes and carry them them on his back. The next day, Ryoma had a monster combat lesson. He headed to the entrance of a well-known mine along with Elia and the knights to begin the training. Elia appeared slightly nervous, as it was her first time fighting real monsters. The Duke and her grandfather encouraged and reassured her. They all entered the mine, and after walking a short distance inside, one of the scouting knights said, "Wait, there's a monster nearby." Everyone stopped, and suddenly, a mantis monster appeared. The scout explained that this creature was especially dangerous because it was never alone. There were usually at least 30 more of its kind nearby within the mine, but Elia gathered her courage and said firmly, "Leave this one to me!" She launched a fire arrow at it, but it had no effect. She then fired another arrow directly at its head, and this time she struck it down. Everyone praised her bravery. Soon, more monsters appeared, and Ryoma eliminated them all with a single strike. His garbage slimes then devoured the fallen monster's remains. At that moment, Elia spotted a metallic slime. She trapped it using an ice spell, then gifted it to Ryoma as a token of gratitude for teaching her how to control magic through fun and games. When they exited the mine, the Duke and grandfather congratulated Elia on catching her first monster. Meanwhile, Ryoma noticed a red shimmer in the sand near the mine's entrance. Using alchemy magic, he extracted metal from the sand, revealing a stunning iron ingot. Everyone around him was impressed. They summoned the merchant, Sergei, to inspect it. Upon seeing the ingot, Sergei gasped in amazement. "My goodness, I've never seen an ingot this beautiful before. The one who made this must be an extremely skilled alchemist." Jamil responded with a smile. "Indeed, it was Ryoma, the young man standing right in front of you." Sergei said, "I'd like to buy it." "Name your price." Jamil replied warmly. "We agree to sell it, and all proceeds will go to Ryoma. We don't need the money." Ryoma could hardly believe it. He was overjoyed. Then the Duke turned to Sergei and warned, "Don't tell anyone that the alchemist who crafted this ingot is an 11-year-old boy. Someone might try to kidnap him." Sergei nodded quickly and said, "You have my word." The next day, Ryoma attended a meeting with the head of the Adventurers Guild and several members. The guildmaster informed them that all individuals who had stolen from the national treasury had been fired and arrested. He then explained their next mission, to track and eliminate the monsters within the northern mine. He reassured them that the creatures were relatively small, but warned there might be unexpected threats inside, so they should remain alert. Before heading out, Ryoma brought poison and acid close to the metallic slime to test its reactions. The slime was visibly terrified. Being made of metal, it was especially vulnerable to acid and toxins. Ryoma gently picked it up and comforted it, later playing ball with Elia using the slime as a toy. Then they heard the adventurers calling Ryoma for the monster hunt. He joined them and headed to the mine, where they were greeted by the guildmaster and his secretary. The secretary said, "The monsters you're likely to encounter inside are either mantises, bats, or rats." The guildmaster added, "These are simple beasts and can be defeated easily, but beware, they usually appear in groups. Still, I'm confident that as brave adventurers, you'll succeed." The group ventured into the mine. After a short walk, one of the adventurers turned to Ryoma jokingly and said, "You've been promoted to rank F in just 2 days. Ryoma laughed and replied, "Do you think cleaning 30 toilets was easy? That nearly broke me." The adventurer replied, "Then go slay some monsters too. You might get another promotion." Just then, the cat-eared adventurer interrupted and asked Ryoma, "By the way, how many slimes do you have under your control?" Ryoma replied calmly, "Not that many, just 4,310. The cat girl was shocked. "How in the world do you control that many?" He answered confidently, "It's simple. I've gotten used to handling all of them." Another adventurer asked, "Can you actually fight?" Ryoma grinned and said, "Of course. I fight with bows, arrows, daggers, my fists, and all kinds of magic spells. There's nothing I can't handle." The girl chuckled and said, "Nice. Looks like we'll be relying on you a lot, especially for the offense. None of us are really good at it." He smiled and replied, "Just say the word. I'm ready." Suddenly, more mantis monsters appeared, but the adventurers quickly defeated them. Then they discovered a large swarm of bats within the mine. Ryoma stepped forward and said, "I'll take care of this. I'll use a sound bomb spell. But first, I'll cast a sound barrier to protect everyone." After making sure everyone was shielded, he cast a small barrier on himself and then detonated the sound bomb. The explosion instantly eliminated all the bats. Ryoma then ordered the sticky slimes to devour the corpses. As they exited the mine, the guildmaster was waiting for them and said, "Goblin monsters have attacked the miners." The secretary showed them an image of the creatures and explained, "The goblin village is located inside the mine. There are over 500 of them. you'll need to eliminate them all. The adventurers formed a strategy. 2 of them entered the goblin village to provoke the monsters and lure them outside. As expected, the goblins chased after them and fell into a pit Ryoma had filled with acid slime. Many were killed on the spot, but due to their massive size, not all of their bodies dissolved completely. The rest of the goblins climbed over the corpses of their fallen comrades and launched a counterattack. The adventurers held their ground. The guildmaster himself joined the fierce battle against the goblins, and many were taken down with swords and spells. But they soon realized the enemy count was far greater than 500. Meanwhile, the healing slimes were assisting the injured miners. More goblins began to emerge. Ryoma declared, "There's no other way now." He used spatial magic to summon a large number of slimes into the mine and ordered them to attack the goblins. The adventurers fought alongside them, cutting down more monsters. Finally, Ryoma decided to use the sound bomb again. He cast sound barriers to protect everyone, shielded himself, and unleashed the bomb. The explosion paralyzed the goblins, making it easy for the slimes to finish them off completely. And then, my friend, the Goblin King appeared, coming to wipe them all out. But do you think Ryoma would just stand by and do nothing? Never. He immediately commanded all the slimes to attack, and sure enough, they managed to bring him down. With that, Ryoma, the slimes, and the adventurers had successfully defeated 2,000 goblins in total. After the battle, Ryoma asked the cleaning slimes to clean the adventurers and their clothes, which were almost discarded due to how filthy they had become. At that moment, Maya said to him, "Ryoma, if you opened a laundry shop, you'd become a millionaire for sure." The idea resonated with Ryoma. When they exited the cave, the villagers thanked Ryoma, as the healing slime had saved the workers who had been attacked by the goblins, and everything returned to normal. After the adventurers returned to the Duke's mansion, Ryoma had already made up his mind to leave and become independent. He met with the Duke and his family, told them everything that happened during the mission, and thanked them for all they had done for him. Then he said, "I've decided to part ways with you and live independently." Eliaya was visibly moved and asked, "Why do you want to leave us? Did someone upset you?" He replied, "No, not at all, but I've come to rely on you for everything. I feel like a spoiled child. That's why I want to stand on my own." The Duke responded, "We knew this day would come. We were just waiting for you to take this step." Eliaya added, "I never imagined Ryoma would ever leave us." Her mother said to her, "Just as you're leaving to attend the Magic Academy and learn on your own, he too must take this journey for himself." Then the grandfather said with a smile, "We agree to let you go, but on one condition. You must write us a letter every day to let us know how you're doing." The Duke added, "And you must come visit us from time to time so we can see you again." Elise said, "Don't ever hesitate to ask us for help, no matter what. Also, you must continue living in this inn. It's ours, and your stay will always be free." Then Eliaya said, "I have 2 conditions. First, we must meet again after 3 years. That's when I'll have my first break from the academy. Second, we must meet again after 6 years, once I graduate. And if you forget those 2 dates, I'll make you regret it." He smiled and replied, all right, I won't forget." Then he asked them, "Are you leaving the city too?" They replied, "Yes, we'll be leaving once the grill frog season begins." He asked, "Aren't those the frogs whose skins are used to make weapons?" The Duke said, "Exactly, and their organs are used for medicine as well." Eliaya added, "During that season, a rare bird called the lemur appears. It's an incredibly beautiful creature with a lovely voice, but it's extremely difficult to catch because of its speed." Ryoma said, "I'd really like to see that bird." Elise told him, "If you want to see it, you'll have to come with us." He replied, "You can count on it." Then Ryoma told them that he planned to open a laundry business. He'd noticed how adventurers always threw away their clothes after fighting ghouls, as the stench was impossible to remove. At that moment, the maids entered the room and said, "You'll earn a fortune from this project. You're cleaning slimes clean clothes like magic." The Duke said, "Tomorrow, I'll arrange a meeting with the merchant Serge so you can present your idea to him and hear what he thinks." The next day, they went to see Serge. When he saw how clean the clothes were thanks to the slime, he said in amazement, "This is incredible, Ryoma. I'm totally on board with your idea, and I'll support you. But first, you need to register with the Merchants Guild, so the big merchants don't trouble you." And so they all went to the guild, where they met the guild master. She agreed to enroll Ryoma, gave him his membership card, and also offered to sell him a great property to use for his laundry business. The next day, Ryoma went with Serge and Eliaya to check out the location. Serge told him, "This place used to be a grand hotel, but it burned down. Ever since, no one's been interested in buying it." Ryoma looked at the map and said, "This location is perfect. It's near a residential area and the Adventurers Guild. I'll take it." Serge laughed and said, Great, I'll bring the workers tomorrow to start renovations. And don't forget my commission, boss. The following day, Ryoma began preparing the place with his slimes. Even the knights helped, laying tiles and cleaning up the storefront. When Eliaya told him, "Take a break, it's been a while since you've rested," he replied, "This is nothing compared to the exhaustion from my old job." He was referring to his work at the programming company in his previous world. She asked, "What exactly did you do?" He said, "A lot of things. I made little dolls and sold them, moved goods between shops, stuff like that." She said in surprise, "Really? You used to make dolls? I want one." He smiled and said, "All right, I'll make you one." Once everything was ready, Ryoma told Hughes that he'd hold a grand opening party for the laundry shop, with food and drinks for everyone. Hughes said jokingly, "I'm definitely in. There's food involved." Ryoma then left and headed to the temple, where he was transported to the other world. Upon his arrival, one of the sorcerers said to him, "Be careful. You can no longer hide your emotions like a child. That's dangerous. You must be cautious from here on." Ryoma understood the warning and said, "I will." Then, he returned once again to the world of Sealfall. The next day, Ryoma visited the Duke's family and invited them to the grand opening of his laundromat. He had prepared a banner that read, "Wash your clothes twice and get the third wash for free." He then invited everyone who had helped and supported him, including the adventurers, the merchant, the head of the Adventurers Guild, the head of the Merchants Guild, the knights, and nearly everyone he knew. On the following day, Serge arrived with the twins, Carla and Callum, the two employees he had promised Ryoma to help him run the laundromat. On the way, Serge warned them, saying, "Be careful. Though the owner of the laundromat is only 11 years old, he is close to the Duke's family. So, if you make any mistake with him, the consequences will be dire for all of us." At that same moment, Ryoma was with Elia and Arone, preparing food and drinks for the guests. Once they finished, Serge arrived with the new employees. Ryoma welcomed them warmly, and when Serge introduced them, he said, "These twins worked with me at one of my company's branches." Carla was the branch manager, and Callum served as her deputy. Ryoma greeted them and introduced himself, then began explaining how the laundromat operated. He showed them the bags customers would purchase to put their laundry in, then pointed to a special window where the laundry would be thrown down to the room below, where the cleaning slimes resided. He took them there and demonstrated how the slimes washed the clothes. Afterward, the metal slime would receive the garments and iron them, followed by the adhesive slime, which arranged them neatly in their designated places. Everything was meticulously organized. He then took them upstairs and informed them that the upper floor was restricted to staff only. He showed them the manager's office, the guest reception room, the kitchen, and all the essential facilities. Afterward, he guided them to the workers' quarters and told them, "You may choose any 2 rooms, as you are currently the only employees." As the guests began to arrive, the staff started serving the food and drinks, and everyone was cheerful and delighted. Ryoma approached the Duke and said, "Of course, this food isn't as luxurious as what you're used to at your banquets, but it's the best we could offer." The Duke laughed and replied, "Don't remind me. Banquet food always upsets my stomach. Your food here is perfect for me." When the party ended, the servants and staff began tidying and cleaning the laundromat. During this time, Carla and her brother spoke to Ryoma in a formal manner, which he didn't like. He said, "Do you think I'm related to the Duke or something?" Carla answered, "Yes." He smiled and replied, "I'm not. You can treat me casually. And by the way, if you're not happy with the job, you're free to leave. I won't be upset." But the twins responded in unison, "We want to work with you." Carla added, "When we heard you were only 11, we thought you were just a child who couldn't manage a business. But seeing you here, we realized you are truly capable, and it would be an honor to work with you, boss." The next day, Ryoma wasn't feeling very optimistic. He told the employees, "I know we won't get many customers at first, so I'll go to the Adventurers Guild while you take care of the laundromat." When he arrived at the guild, he found that his friends had created a poster advertising the laundromat and hung it on the wall for everyone to see. He thanked them sincerely, then selected a new cleaning mission. After completing his mission and returning to the laundromat, he was surprised to see an overwhelming number of customers, so many that they blocked the entrance. He used his spatial movement skill to enter and help the employees with their tasks. By the end of the day, everyone was exhausted, and Ryoma thanked them, saying, "I'll hire more staff so the workload is divided, and you can all get more rest." He went to the Merchants Guild and asked the head to send him more employees, as the project was succeeding and the workload was increasing. She replied, "Consider it done. Just tell me what you need." He then visited the Duke and told him everything that had happened. The Duke advised him to visit the royal guards, as they constantly needed their clothes and armor cleaned. Working with them would provide a stable income. Ryoma promised to visit them soon. The Duke then noticed signs of fatigue on Ryoma and said, "You seem exhausted. You should rest so you can continue your work tomorrow." Indeed, Ryoma went to his room, and despite his exhaustion, he felt immense joy. His project had succeeded, and he was surrounded by people who cared for him. The next day, even more customers came. When one lady noticed that her clothes looked clean and brand new, she thanked the employees and said, "I'll wash my clothes here every day." Everyone in the laundromat heard her and was overjoyed, knowing they had finally found a reliable place to clean their garments efficiently. Once Ryoma was assured that everything was running smoothly, he returned to the Merchants Guild. There, the head had already gathered a group of job applicants for him. Upon seeing him, they began whispering, thinking he was the head's grandson or a relative. Ryoma smiled and said, "I'm the owner of the laundromat, and I'm 11 years old. I've come to choose who among you is fit to work with us." He explained that the job did not require much physical effort, so women could apply as well. However, he warned them that those who feared monsters could not work there, as they would have to interact with slimes. Most of them grew scared and left, except for a man and a young girl, who seemed to be strangers to the city. Ryoma noticed that the man's cane concealed a sword, and the girl's hair clip was also a weapon. However, he pretended not to notice and asked them what conditions they had for accepting the job. The man replied, "My name is Fai, and this is my daughter Ling. She doesn't resemble me because she inherited her beauty from her mother." He then showed Ryoma his broken leg and added, "Even so, I can still work." Ryoma replied, "Don't worry, it's a simple matter. I have a healing slime that can easily treat your leg." They then spoke about housing, and the man explained that they were poor and couldn't afford to rent an apartment. Ryoma told them, "That's solved too. I have lodging available for workers and staff." He then asked, "What's the story behind the weapons you're carrying?" They were surprised he had figured them out. Fai said, "I didn't expect you to be so perceptive. Since you know, I'll tell you the truth. We used to be hired assassins, but we left that life after our leader died. We managed to escape from our country before the regime there could kill us, and we arrived here with nothing. No money, no possessions." Ryoma turned to the head of the guild and asked, "Did you know they were former assassins?" She replied, "Yes, but don't worry. They're good people, and I vouch for them with my life." Ryoma then said to them, "I wish to benefit from your experience, and would like to appoint you as guards for the laundry." The employees immediately agreed, and he took them there. Upon arrival, they were surprised to find the laundry packed with customers. Ling said in astonishment, "Are you sure you just opened 2 days ago? The place is full of people. This is really encouraging." He laughed and said, "It's Thursday today, don't jinx it, my lady." Then Ryoma introduced them to the staff, turned to Faye, and said, "You'll be in charge of receiving customers." Faye approached the cashier with a smile. Ryoma then said to Ling, "Enter the slime room and receive the clean clothes from them." Without saying a word, she went into the slime room. When she saw how they worked, she was deeply impressed and started taking the clean clothes from them and handing them to Carla. At the end of the day, Ryoma thanked everyone and asked Carla to prepare the account summary. He then took Faye and his daughter to the second floor, where he asked one of his slimes to heal Faye's broken leg. Faye could hardly believe he could stand again and thanked Ryoma sincerely. After that, Ryoma showed them the rooms they would stay in, and they were very impressed by how clean and beautiful they were. When they returned to Carla and her brother, Carla handed the account sheet to Ryoma. He said, "We earned more today than we did in the past 2 days combined." She replied, "You should invest in this success and open a new branch in another city." He said, "It's still too early for that. It's only been 2 days since we opened." Then Ryoma told them that Faye and his daughter had military backgrounds, and for that reason, they would be working in security. The next day, Ryoma met with Alaya and told her everything that had happened, that the project had succeeded, and that he had hired new staff to help him. She said, "Now I'm relieved. I've been busy learning new types of magic and couldn't assist you." Ryoma thanked her and returned to the laundry, which, as usual, was full of customers. He decided to reward the employees by baking pizza for them himself. He prepared the food, and at the end of the day, they all sat together and ate. The food was delicious, and everyone loved it. The next day, Ryoma told the employees, "I'll be hiring more staff soon, and I'll make sure to provide meals and improve the workflow. If only all managers were like Ryoma, life would be perfect." Then Ryoma returned to the Merchants Guild and asked the manager to send new employees, including a cook. She brought him 3 women and said, "These 3 are from the same village. They came to Gimel City looking for work." The cook introduced herself and said, "My name is Celia. I used to work as a chef in major hotels, and I'd like to work with you. Ryoma agreed and hired her along with the other 3 girls. Passed since the laundry opened, and things started going even better. Sales increased significantly. The staff were comfortable in their work, and when the Duke's family saw the line of customers waiting outside, they were delighted. The Duke said, I knew he'd succeed, but not this quickly. This puts us at ease, knowing we can leave him in the city on his own. The next day, Sergei met Ryoma and asked, how's work going? Ryoma replied, everything is great. The employees you recommended are doing an excellent job. I've hired more, and my profits are increasing every day. Sergei said, what if I told you we could increase your profits even more? Ryoma asked, surprised. How would that happen? Sergei replied, you already supply our company with metal ingots and sticky slime threads that adventurers use. Now we want you to also supply us with waterproof fabric. As you know, the frog hunting season is near, and adventurers will be heading to the swamps. They'll need waterproof cloth, he continued. We need large quantities. You'll profit, and so will the company. Ryoma said, all right then, deal. That same night, Aaliyah was with Ryoma and learned that he was producing the waterproof fabric in an abandoned cave. She said, I'll come with you tomorrow. The next day, Ryoma was working in the cave, and the sticky slime was doing the job. Aaliyah said, I came with you today to practice the violin. Ryoma was surprised and said, I didn't know you played music. She replied, the birds I want to tame communicate through melodies, so I'm training to attract them and form a taming contract. When she began playing, Ryoma and the slime were captivated by her music. When she finished, he said, how about I make you that doll I promised? She happily replied, of course, I'd love that. Ryoma then used his stone-shattering magic and sculpted a beautiful doll from stone that resembled Aaliyah. She was deeply moved and thanked him. The next day, Ryoma made dolls resembling each member of the Duke's family. When they saw them, they were amazed. The Duke said to Aaliyah, take these figurines with you to school so you won't feel lonely. She agreed happily, then said to Ryoma, can you make a doll that looks like you? He said, of course, I'll make one for you. Time passed quickly, and work in the laundry was running like clockwork. Ryoma continued visiting the cave, producing large amounts of waterproof cloth. At the same time, he trained with the slimes in combat. When he returned to the laundry, he discovered that sales had tripled because they had secured many cleaning contracts from blacksmiths, miners, and carpenters. He thanked the employees because they were the reason for the increased income. Then he remembered that he hadn't given them any days off, so he said to them, choose. Either we close the laundry 1 day a week and everyone gets a break, or each of you gets a day off separately. The employees were touched by his words. None of them had ever worked for someone who cared about them, nor had they ever been given time off. At that moment, Celia the cook said, the food is ready. Ryoma smiled and said, you arrived right on time. Starving. The next day, when Ryoma went to the Adventurers Guild, the receptionist informed him that a group called the Seacam Harbor Party had arrived from a distant city, bringing with them a rare type of slime. They tried to sell it to the guild, but the guild refused, which left them deeply frustrated as they were in urgent need of money. Ryoma took the situation seriously and said to her, tell me where they are. Quickly, she told him they were at a tavern, so he headed there immediately. When he arrived and asked about them, he found them in a terrible state. Their money had completely run out. They introduced themselves to him, and he told them that he owned a laundromat. He then asked about the slime they had discovered, and one of them responded, I'm Shin, the leader of the group. Please, ask anything you'd like. Ryoma replied, it's a pleasure to meet you. Show me the slime you brought. If it's truly rare, I'll buy it from you. When they showed him the slime, it was red and resembled blood. Ryoma immediately said, I'll take it. He gave them 2 gold coins. Shin couldn't believe his luck and thanked Ryoma profusely for his generosity. Ryoma then said to him, the frog hunting season is almost here. I advise you to get a permit from the guild and go hunting. I hope to see you at my laundromat. I promise you'll be pleased with the service. After leaving them, Ryoma used space magic and teleported to an abandoned mine where he cast a bonding spell with the slime. The slime accepted the taming immediately, allowing Ryoma to learn its characteristics. It turned out to be a blood-sucking slime. To confirm, he placed the slime near an animal corpse. The slime entered the body and absorbed all the blood inside. Ryoma said to himself, this slime will be incredibly useful in fighting monsters. It will be able to eliminate them and drain their blood. Ryoma then returned to managing his laundromat, which was running exceptionally well. He found time to craft the doll Aaliyah had requested from him, and he also completed all his Adventurers Guild assignments. One day, Aaliyah told him that her father and stepmother would be training tomorrow in monster taming, and she asked him to accompany her. He smiled and said, "Of course." The next day, Ryoma went with Aaliyah, her father, and her stepmother to the place where the training in taming magic was to be held. There, Elise asked the group, "Who among you brave ones can tell me what taming magic means?" Aaliyah replied, "It's when a tamer and a beast form a partnership contract, making the beast submit to the tamer. A bond is then formed between them, allowing them to communicate and act together." Elise said, "Excellent. Your explanation is spot on. Now, let's move to the next level and learn shared perception magic." She added, "This magic allows you to see and feel everything your tamed beast perceives and vice versa, which makes it extremely helpful when facing danger." Reinhardt commented, "This type of magic isn't something just any tamer can use. It requires great experience." After that, Elise presented them with two bird-like creatures and said, "Today, you will practice shared perception magic with these birds." Indeed, both participants began to communicate with the birds, and the birds agreed to form a bond and be controlled. Elise said, "I want you to focus on the bond between you and the birds, to see what they see." As usual, Ryoma succeeded on the first try and was able to view everything from the bird's perspective. Afterward, they sat down to rest and drink tea. The Duke said to Ryoma, "I thought this kind of magic would be difficult for you, but it seems nothing stands in your way." Elise added, "Ryoma still has much to learn." She then told him that she was a tamer, capable of summoning her personal beast, and indeed, within moments, a giant white wolf appeared and sat at her feet. At first, Ryoma thought it was going to attack her and was ready to intervene, but Elise reassured him and said, "This wolf is called Laruk Fenrir, and he poses no threat." Ryoma said, "I thought Laruk Fenrir beasts were just legends, not real." She answered, "They're no myth. They are larger than regular wolves, resemble them in shape, and are skilled in using ice magic. And by the way, I've tamed 20 of them." Ryoma was deeply amazed and said, "Taming even one Laruk Fenrir beast is incredibly difficult." Elise continued, "Even I have tamed 100 mutant wolves before." Ryoma looked at himself and said, "And here I was, proud of raising my slimes. They're nothing compared to the beasts Elise has tamed." The Duke said to him, "Elise is a skilled tamer. Despite how hard it is to tame such creatures, she can handle taming many of them at once. Imagine, Ryoma, if your wife was better than you." Elise laughed and said, "But don't forget, you're unbeatable with a sword." Then she added, "What would you say if you knew that Jamil tames dragons? And the Duke too. He tames four-legged beasts, although he's modest and doesn't brag about it." She continued, "By the way, Jamil tames fewer than 20 beasts, but half of them are dragons." When Ryoma asked where they kept all those beasts, Jamil said, "We own a large estate where all the beasts are kept. It's guarded by dragons to prevent any escape." Elise said, "As for my beasts, they live on a small mountain suited to their size. That mountain contains rare medicinal herbs found nowhere else, which is why the wolves guard it from poachers." Ryoma was astonished by everything he had learned about their beasts. From that day on, he continued training in magic with Elise to further develop his skills without neglecting his business. He produced a large amount of waterproof fabric and sold it to Serge. Then he went to the Adventurers Guild, where Maya told him that the frog hunting season would begin in just 3 days. She said, "This is a great opportunity to catch frogs and sell them. It also makes for excellent training." At that moment, one of his companions said, "We need the protective mask you wore when cleaning public baths, and also clothing that won't get damaged by lake water." Ryoma told them, "Everything you need can be found at Coral Import Company. When you go there, ask for the merchant Serge and tell him I sent you. He'll treat you well." The next day, the Duke and his family were having tea with Ryoma, and Aaliyah was very excited because the day after tomorrow she would go to the lake and use the guitar to catch lemur birds. But when Ryoma remembered that the Duke and his family would leave the city after Elise's hunt was over, he felt sad. The following day, the Duke, his knights, and Ryoma set out toward the lake. Elia looked exhausted from the long journey, her appearance reflecting her fatigue. When Ryoma met the Sakem Harbor adventurers, he stopped to greet them. Then he said to the Duke, "You go on ahead to the lake." As they walked, Ryoma spoke with Shin and asked, "How's everything going, my friend?" Shin replied, "I don't even know how to thank you. You bought the slime from us at a great price, and you introduced us to the rare frogs opportunity. We were able to catch a good amount and sell them at an excellent rate. We'll head to your laundromat after this to wash our clothes. We've grown used to it and don't know how we'll manage back in our city." They said their farewells and continued on their way, while Ryoma arrived at the lake. There he saw the beautiful lemur birds. He also saw his fellow adventurers trying to catch frogs before the lemur birds got to them. The Duke said to them, "There's an adventurer attempting to tame a lemur bird." The adventurer began playing a flute, but his playing was dreadful. The Duke said, "If the bird dislikes the music, it will let out a loud and annoying sound." And that's exactly what happened. The adventurer got angry, drew his sword, and tried to attack the bird, but the lemur retaliated with cutting magic that resembled powerful blasts aimed directly at him. Ryoma immediately stepped in and used earth magic to create a barrier between the adventurer and the lemur. Then one of the birds released an unbearably shrill sound that no one around the lake could endure, except for Ryoma. He managed to identify which bird was causing the sound among the others. Using soundproofing magic, he created a barrier around that bird, and the rest of the birds followed it and flew away from the lake. The Duke asked him, "How were you able to withstand that terrible sound?" He answered, "Did you forget? I can endure pain no matter how intense it is." But at that moment, Elia was deeply saddened because she had failed to tame any of the lemur beasts. Then Rain said, "The type we encountered today is known as the nightmare bird. It's extremely rare and only appears once every 10 years. It uses dark magic, which grants it terrifying magical abilities, one of which is the sound you just heard." Ryuma responded, "What do you think about searching for this bird's nests?" But the guards explained how difficult that would be, as these birds build their nests in remote areas deep within the forest. Later that day, Ryuma stood by the lake with Eliaria, her father, and the rest of her family. They all remained hopeful that the birds would return. At that moment, Eliaria said, "I still can't believe we're going to part ways, and each of us will go down our own path." Ryuma didn't know how to respond. He remained silent, lost in thought, until he remembered a story he had once read back on Earth. The main character had been in a similar situation and had told the heroine, "We'll definitely meet again." Remembering this, Ryuma turned to Eliaria and said, "Don't worry, we will meet again." Hughes then tried to lighten the mood with a bit of humor, but Eliaria's father didn't seem amused. After all, she was still his daughter. The tense atmosphere soon faded when the lemur birds appeared once more. Eliaria was determined to tame them. She took out her violin and began to play a beautiful melody. The birds emerged from the lake and approached her, and everyone stood in awe as she successfully tamed 9 lemur birds at once. She then cast the control spell, and the birds agreed to form a contract with her, placing them under her command. At that moment, Ryuma used space magic to summon a guitar and began to play a beautiful tune of his own. To everyone's surprise, a nightmare bird appeared, accompanied by a group of lemur birds. Eliaria quickly reminded Ryuma to form the magical contract with them as well. Once he succeeded in taming the birds, the adventurers and Eliaria's family congratulated him. Taming lemur birds was notoriously difficult, but Ryuma's talent had allowed him to control a large number of them. Then Eliaria noticed that one of the birds she had tamed looked slightly different from the others. It turned out to be a rare, evolved subspecies called a spectral lemur bird, capable of using white magic, the most powerful form of magic. When they returned home, a large celebration was held to honor Eliaria for taming her first magical creature. It was also a farewell party for Ryuma, as her family would be leaving the city the following day. Eliaria was deeply saddened by the thought of parting from Ryuma. She told him, "I never really had any friends. All the children around me were always afraid to get close, either because of my family's status or because of my magical powers." She continued, "When I was 5, I was playing with an older boy. At the time, I hadn't yet learned how to control my magic, and I accidentally froze him. My parents stepped in quickly and apologized to his family, and they accepted the apology. But the boy went and told all the other children that I did it on purpose. From that day on, they all feared me. No one ever tried to become my friend again." After she finished her story, she noticed a look of concern on Ryuma's face and asked, "Are you afraid of me too?" He replied, "I could never be afraid of you." She smiled and said, "And I'm not afraid of you either. That's why I want you to have this." She pulled out an elegant box. Inside, Ryuma found a pendant with a deep red ruby. "My mother gave it to me as a gift for my 10th birthday, she said. Ryuma hesitated, "But this pendant is incredibly valuable and rare. I can't accept it." But she insisted, "I want you to keep it until we meet again. Friends give each other gifts when they part ways, so they can remember one another. I want you to remember me through this." Ryuma thought to himself, "Now I'm in a real dilemma. I have to give her something too." He looked around and, having no other options, offered her 2 slimes, one for cleaning and the other that feeds on garbage. Remember me through them, he said with a soft smile. Eliaria laughed and teased. All right, I'll think of you every time I see a garbage slime. How romantic. The next morning, everyone gathered to bid Ryuma farewell. They exchanged heartfelt goodbyes and promises. He promised Elise and the Duke that he would write to them regularly to let them know how he was doing. Then Eliaria told him, "Don't forget your promise. We'll meet again in 3 years, and once more in 6 years when I finish my studies. And if you forget, I'll punish you with something you won't be able to handle," she added. "My mother once punished my father for forgetting a promise between them, and I'm exactly like her in every way. So be careful." Ryuma nodded. "Don't worry, I won't forget." Since he still called her Miss, she said, "We're friends now. You should call me by my name, and from now on, I'll just call you Ryuma too. No more formalities." He agreed. "All right, it's a deal." Eliaria smiled, ran toward the carriage, and climbed in. Then she and her family left the city. As the carriage moved away, Eliaria couldn't hide her sorrow. One of the slimes handed her the flute she often played. As if asking her for one last tune, she took it gently and played a slow, sorrowful melody. Her tears flowed freely, and she made no attempt to stop them. Meanwhile, Ryuma decided to check in on his laundry business first, then head to the abandoned mines, where he planned to build a new home. He had made up his mind to leave the inn he had been staying in. He told himself, "I can't waste a single moment. I need to keep learning and improving, just like I promised Eliaria, the Duke, and their family." And with that, the story of our anime comes to an end. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.